Hello everybody, this is the Retro Bear, once again welcoming you back to the Desert Island for another new episode of Desert Island Games, that series which people enjoy who listen to it. Whether you're watching it or listening to it, whether it's in the bath, because quite a few people do listen to this in the bath, whether it's on the way to work, whether it's on the way home from work, whether you're doing stuff around the house. Great to have you with us once again. And another great episode, another new episode as well. If you've not heard the concept of Desert Island Games before and you are new to this, first of all the archive episodes are in the description below, the channel below. You're able to see previous people I've been speaking to. The concept is we take a YouTuber, we stick on a desert island with 6 games that they want to take with them as their favourites. We also ask them to take one second chance game, which will be a game which they need to put some more time into, didn't appreciate the first time round, didn't get very far with it, got to a certain point, want to try again. And also one game to make their life a little bit more of a misery that they don't really like at all, for whatever reason. But they're going to have to play it before they come off the desert island. Interspersed with these games, we'll be talking about their gaming history, consoles they've owned, systems they've played on, experiences, memories, all the usual things thrown into the hat and coming out the other side in some sort of coherent conversation, I would hope, anyway. And a few tangents thrown in as well. Now, this week, my guest is somebody who's been on YouTube probably, I think, about a year or so, and has integrate himself in the community. Somebody I've met a couple of times as well, which is a fantastic guy to meet in real life. Great passion for gaming as well. And it's an absolute delight to welcome my guest today, which is YouTube channel name Inked Northerner, but I should be calling him Paul because that's a bit of a mouthful. Hi, Paul.
Hey, Russ. You all right?
I'm very well, thank you. And thank you very much indeed for coming on to lay your gaming history bare for all to hear.
Absolute pleasure to be here.
Good. I like it when people respond positively. I asked so many people to do this, and so many people have come back and said, yes, only one person, only 2 people who won't actually give me a commitment yet. But we'll get round that. We'll get to them at some point in the future. But no, like I said, I've met you a couple of times, Paul, and obviously, I was always saying this thing. I know you from your YouTube channel, like a lot of people, but it's getting down to talking about games. I know we spent some time together, and that one afternoon, wasn't it? Late summer, wasn't it? We came down and we went around some of the independent game stores, wasn't it?
I had the pleasure of you chauffeuring me around for the afternoon.
That's it. And believe it or not, mate, very, very few people have had the privilege of doing that. I think all the people, all my mates, etc., I've known, and the only people I think I've ever driven anywhere, my dad once, obviously Mrs. Bear, and yourself. So you're a part of a very exclusive list.
I needed to be there to be the muscle to lift all those things in Dana's lockup, didn't I?
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff to shift around that day, wasn't there? Well, yeah, that was a good day out, and I've sort of been down since then, and hopefully, and obviously there was going to be something that I may have been involved in November, but unfortunately I can't do that now, which is a bit of a shame because I would have really enjoyed doing that. But anyway, that's another opportunity, but maybe it'll come around again in the future. We always start these things off, Paul. Again, people may or may not be aware of your channel, so give you a few moments to explain what you do on YouTube and your interests and what you got you started there.
So, we'll start off with what I do on YouTube. So I do the usual pickups that a lot of people do. Started doing some game reviews, some film reviews. Although it's been a while since I last did a film review. Mainly, I just try to have fun whilst making videos about games, to be honest. If other things get thrown in, I'm usually the general chat worker when the wrestling streams on.
The bootleggers, yes.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, it's been on days where, because I picked up an extra day of jiu-jitsu, and it's been on when I've not been able to be in the comments, unfortunately. So yeah.
Yes, I've read that. Yeah.
Just having to watch that back. Hopefully, I'm going to change that day though soon, and I might be able to get into the comments more. But yeah, that's the kind of thing I do in terms of the videos. You'll see me. I do the shelf game with a few of the other guys, Ross, or Al, Eddie, Retro Ramley, and Jim Cobana.
Jim, yeah.
We have fun with that. Some of them can last, last a lot longer than they should.
I think
Depends on how much beer flows.
Was it like a couple of 3 hours, the last one? I think it was. It went on for a bit, didn't it?
I think I had to drop off of it, but the lads carried on. And yeah, it lasted for quite a while.
Well, if you get into those situations, like these go on for ages. Look, I'm as guilty as anybody of sitting there doing something which lasts 3 hours, but sometimes that's how long it takes, isn't it? It just goes that far.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of my channel, I started. I'm gonna guess that 99% of the people, when they see YouTube, they start off thinking, I'm gonna go into it. I'm gonna make a load of money, and I had those ambitions at the start, and it quickly changed. I changed what I wanted from it. I got to meet a lot of good guys, and now I just want to have, I want to make videos and have a laugh with the rest of the community.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be liked by everybody. I try to be as nice as I can be with everybody, but but yeah, that's all I'm out for it for now. I just want to make videos and have a laugh.
It's the best advice you can give somebody to start up. Very so few people make anything off this. It's like what I think what Tootie described. It's just a load of hobbyists getting together, and okay, some of them are slightly more successful than others, but you're all still doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, to make money off of YouTube, there's going to be maybe 2% of the people that make a lot of money off it, can make a living out of it. Fair play to them. I mean, much like a lot of the newer guys, I started my channel when lockdown was in. I was watching a lot more YouTube because working from home and not on the road driving to places. And I think it's because I started off watching people like Metal Jesus and Metal Jesus' crew, and then got into the UK stuff with the Jebs. Gemma, she makes good videos, good content, and I think saw that they were successful and thought, well, I can do what they're doing. And then you slowly realise that it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, which is why I know a lot of people don't like a lot of the bigger channels, but I applaud them, because to put that much effort and that much energy into it, even me, I try my pickups to try to keep non-scripted, but they are non-scripted. But things like the reviews, you have to sit down, you've got to play the game, you've got to then write up what you're going to do. I had all these ambitions of having a website that I was going to do for game reviews on, and it becomes a full-time job if you look at it that way, and I've already got one of them. I don't need another one.
The amount of effort you have to put into it, and I agree with you. I applaud anybody who's been successful and is able to maintain that success through the amount of work that goes into it. I always say about when we do the TMB podcast, we're all working guys. We all have full-time jobs away from this. Some of us have got family beyond that as well. We have to spend time with. So throwing your life and soul into doing this just to try and make a living off it, chances are you're not going to succeed with it. We all start at the same point. Everybody who's been big has started at the same point that you and I have done. It's just that things happen differently for whatever reason, and you can't explain it. It's like, why is so and so more successful than me? As you said, you look at somebody doing it and you go, oh, well, I could do that. And then when you actually do it, you realise it's a damn lot harder than it looks to sort of just sit down in front of a camera and make videos.
Yeah, it's learning new skills. My editing's not great, but I've learned to do some film editing, some video editing, not film editing, and bits and pieces. But it's nice to learn those new skills. But I couldn't do it to the level that the rest of the guys do it, because those big guys do it, because it just takes time and effort. And I'm the same as everybody. Like you say, majority of us are all working guys, and we just do what we do.
That's right. That's exactly what we do. Sorry, thank you very much. So the drink brought to me. Sorry. What else I could say? That yeah. Wait. Yes, Mrs. Bear's waving in the background. There we go. Seen her arm. There. People think she exists or not, I don't know, but I know people that met her. She does exist, of course she does. Yes, what I was going to say about that, it is what it is, and you just make if you're happy doing it, and you're getting enjoyment from doing it, and we have an audience. We know most of them personally. Some of them we don't know, but it's nice that people will watch the videos, and I'm quite happy with that. If I make 5 pence off doing this at some point in the future, I'll be happy. I can actually say, well, there we go. I've actually achieved something. My goal was to possibly get to the point where somebody might actually pay me some money for doing this, and I don't care if I just get over it and 5 pence comes through. That's fine. I don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, in my head, it was a creative outlet for me, and when one person started watching me, I thought, well, excellent. And as far as I'm concerned, as long as I've got one person watching me or subscribe to me or whatever, I'm going to carry on making that content because it's one person that wants to. And I'm surprised that however many people want to watch me. Just how many people want to watch a tattooed northerner sat in front of a camera? But I think, like I say, it's the kind of it's where it's where we're at. We have an audience, and you try to help, but try to make that audience happy with what they see.
That's right.
I mean, I know. Like I say, I started off watching the bigger channels, and then got into the UK sort of area with Gemma. But the two real YouTube channels that I'd watched the most, I guess, out with the hyper larger ones, that we'll call them, was yourself and Mr. Gernaldinho.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
I cannot remember which order it was in. All I do remember is right at the start when I put my channel up. This was before I had a channel. I was watching yourself and Rob, and all I can remember is when I put my channel up, I was honoured that both of you decided to give me a shout out at separate occasions.
I remember doing that.
It helps. It helps everybody. Channels the size of yourself and Rob, new people coming in, getting those little I would say the little wins. This person has given me, the platform to go on, and you hope, or at least I'm that kind of person. I hope in the future I can do it for other people.
Yeah, that's why I enjoy doing it, because I know how hard it was when I started out to gain an audience and gain some recognition, and slowly but surely it happened. So when I hear about all the channels, I come across other channels, I know how hard it's going to be to get started. So if I can, because I know I've got an audience as such, so I know I can reach a few people, and if they can reach a few other people beyond that and recommend that, then that's how it goes. And it's nice that to people to get a start. And I don't do it for any particular reason other than the fact that I want to. I'm not under any agenda to. I'm not favouring somebody or just promoting somebody. If I see something I like, I'm gonna recommend it to people. And usually, I would say I'll get it pretty correct. And a lot of people follow through with the going and subscribing or watching and doing content. I suppose the other way to look at it is I always look at a video, and if I say get 100 views on a video, I just imagine that a room full of 100 people. And so each time. So if I do a video, there's going to be a room full of 100 people, 200 people watching it. That's a lot of people when you think about it. I mean, when I was at school, we had a lecture theatre, and our year was 180 odd people. I think about how big that place was and how many people are actually in there. And I think that number of people are watching this video each time. That's a lot of people to entertain and stand up. So that's how I view it. It's a bit of a strange way of thinking about it, but I'm just glad I could have, we found your channel, early in the run and gave you the shout outs that we did. And Rob does it as well. I mean, I do quite a few of them. I know Rob does a few as well. And it's great what's happened to him. I mean, Rob's just sort of shot up now and is doing very well for him. His channel's doing fantastically. And like me and like you as well, he does not just gaming, as you mentioned, the film stuff which you're into as well. So it's nice to have a bit of variety in there for other people.
Yeah, the thing with Rob is the personality. Even though you don't see him on camera, you can tell he's got a personality straight away. And that's why I really enjoyed his videos at the start. You know, I didn't need to see him on camera. You could see just with his dancing hands that he has that personality and that excitement about him. And it's great that the one thing that I like to say, when I say I think I started out with those grand ideas of making a lot of money, but now I think back, I'm glad I've now got that mindset that I'm in it to meet people and just have a laugh. And I've met some really, really good guys. Some guys who are considered good friends now. You've got people like Mark, Jody Slasher, who he's like a brother from another mother for me, because we have so much in common. It's unreal, including like family backgrounds and stuff.
Yeah, you're like a double act, you. So I do think of you like as a double act, because when you're in commenting, certainly on the bootleggers anyway, there's always a little bit of banter going back and forth, and it's like I always see it. I think, yeah, they're at it again. It's.
Yeah, I mean, he's like a brother. I already have two of them. I like one of them. I don't like the other one, but
he sits somewhere in between. I like Mark. We had him on a couple of weeks ago. He's absolutely fantastic, and again, like having met yourself, it's like all the people you say about good friends, and a lot of people think, one day I'm going to sit down and have a conversation or a drink or whatever with people like that. And this is quite a good way of doing it, because although a lot of people I interact with on YouTube, a lot of people haven't met me. So this is probably the first chance a lot of people, as what Mark said when he was on here, he said, we spent 3 hours talking. He said, I think dare say we could spend another couple of days talking about stuff. He said, because I feel I could just sit down and talk to you all day. It's like, yeah, I feel exactly the same. And that's why these things go on for 3 hours. So it's...
Yeah, I mean, most of my work day is the interactions like this at the minute. I will be glad to get back to having that that personal interaction with people. But you're right, this is a good way of doing it, and we've got the technology, so we should use it.
That's it. Yeah,
there's nothing stopping everybody getting on one of these like we do them, kind of the shelf game, but privately, just for a few beers and things like that. There's nothing stopping people doing that. That's what technology for.
Well, we live in that age now, don't we? Everything's changed. It's not what it was before. This is probably the way the most interaction a lot of us have had for a long time, and we'll probably continue to do so. Continue the fact we're all spread all over the place as well. It's not like we're localised or anything like that. You're up in Blackburn, isn't it? And I'm down here in Birmingham, and Mark's up in Newcastle. Rob's down in Essex, we mentioned, and Ross is all the way down the far end of about as far south wherever you can get as you can possibly be. So
he's on that tiny little island, isn't he?
Yeah. So it is a strange one.
Also, Mark wishes he was in Newcastle. He's in Sunderland.
Oh, is he live in Sunderland, does he? Oh, he's been forced to live in Sunderland, right? Okay, he's been banished to Sunderland then. So I just presumed he was there, but there we go. That's one question I didn't ask him. Where exactly do you live? That's one thing I didn't talk to him about it anyway. Okay, so we'll move on with the bones of the conversation. Just to let people know as well, if you've not come across Paul's channel before, I'll put a link in the description below. Go across and have a look at some of his content there, and if it is something that you enjoy, watch the videos, comment on those, and do give him a subscription as well, because he's a great guy, and we've got some really interesting stuff here. We've had a quick chat before, and you've mentioned some of your gaming history. There's a couple of interesting stories there which I know are going to come out, which would be fascinating to listen to. Again, with your gaming list, I'm pleased to say there's some stuff on there we haven't had already, which is good. I like that. And as always, when we come across a game we've had before, it's always nice to get people's take on why it's there. So that's good. I know we've had one of these games quite recently, but we'll talk about that as we get through. So in terms of where you started then, Paul, your first gaming experiences and how you got into this wonderful hobby that we do, where did that all begin for you?
So I had been about... I was never one of these kids who always wanted the latest technology. I used to be out with friends and on the park and just being a general lad, I guess, even at a young age. And one Christmas, I'd asked my parents for a Nintendo, so the NES, and I didn't think I was getting it. You know, we weren't a rich family. I come from a working class background. You know,
right.
You get what you get, and you don't get upset, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, I always knew that it would eventually come, but it might have came. You know, I might have got it when the SNES came out and it had gone down in price or whatever. But you know, so Christmas, I'm sure it was Christmas. Yeah, Christmas morning. Come down. The house we used to live in had open plan staircase, which was very, very good for sneaking down and watching horror films like Nightmare on Elm Street when the babysitters were watching them, and you could sit at the top and watch the film. Not that I ever did that.
No.
But yeah, so I come down, you could see through the slats, and I saw the NES there, and it came with one game. It came with the double pack of Mario and Duck Hunt.
Yeah.
Lucky enough to get the Zapper as well. Put Mario in, played Mario to death for the first few hours after opening everything. Put Duck Hunt in and was blown away by how this gun in my hand was shooting those ducks.
Oh,
and then the humour of the dog with the way he laughed, and you know, I absolutely loved it, and I really do thank my parents for getting me that, because without them getting that, I would not really have I won't probably be here now. In terms of talking to you about games,
yeah,
I would have been here, obviously. But,
yes, yes, in some capacity, but not talking about something completely different. So.
Yeah. So yeah, it was great to get that. So that was my first console. And then used to beg, steal, and borrow games from friends to play. You know, other friends that had them, and we used to, you know, just whatever I could get my hands on, I would play. Yeah. And then, along with that, a few months later, my dad worked for a company that manufactured POS systems, so point of sale systems, tills.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
They were called Uniwell, and he brought home a big whopping IBM green screen PC.
Oh.
And
absolute beast of machine, those.
It was huge, but it was absolutely amazing to play Snake on that machine. That was my first taste of Snake. That's just a kind of side point. But yeah, the NES was my first taste in gaming. I've never had a microcomputer. So this is why I don't have any love for any of that. You know, the only microcomputer experience I've had is whatever's on the Evercade.
Yeah.
Really, I probably have played them in the past, but never touched them.
Did you say you obviously had friends with NESs? I mean, because this is one subject that comes up quite a lot. We mentioned microcomputers. I mean, I grew up playing on other people's microcomputers, so for me that's where I started. But there was always that, you know, you're either a Spectrum or you're a Commodore kid. With the consoles, it's you either had an NES or you had a Master System. And most people would have had a Master System, but very, very few people we've spoken to over the course of this, but also we know for the community, very, very few people knew anybody with an NES. I didn't know anybody with an NES growing up. So were there quite a few friends of yours who had?
Off the top of my head, there's only maybe one other person I can think of, or maybe two other people that had them. Had one. Like I said, my group of friends back then, we were generally just lads. We'd be out playing football and stuff like that. It wasn't. I wasn't sort of like I am now, antisocial and just playing games in my office kind of thing. But yeah, I think one or two of the lads had a NES. One of the lads definitely had the Master System, and something in the back of my head tells me that my uncle had a Specky.
Right.
But if he did, I don't remember playing on it or touching it to any level. I don't think he'd have let me, to be fair. It's probably a ham-fisted child as such, clumsy. So,
so did you get many? I know you said you through various means, like beg, borrowing, steal off friends or whatever. Did you get many games for the NES yourself that you can remember, or
no, mainly the main canon games, so the Mario games. I had a copy of Tetris. It was mainly stuff that me and my mum and my dad would play, or my brothers and sisters to a degree. But there was times where I would go to bed and come down and in the morning my dad would have had he'd been doing a run on Mario or whatever, and he'd have paused it and gone to bed himself and then come back down ready to start again.
The days without solid save states, yes.
Yeah, or he'd be going on a massive run on Tetris or whatever, and playing that. But in terms of games, it would have been few and far between. Like I said, we weren't a family who were well off or anything, well to do. We got what you could get when you could get it, kind of thing. But I'm sort of the oldest on my side. I do have cousins who are slightly older, but they all lived in Scotland. So I didn't have cousins that I could swap with, or cousins who had consoles either. So literally my parents buying me that Nintendo would have been why I'm into my gaming.
Yeah.
And I think the reason for it is I probably saw an advert, or I've seen one in Woolworths maybe, and thought it looked cool. So that would be why I'd have gone for the Nintendo. I don't think Sega were ever on my radar back then.
No, you either have one or the other. I remember seeing NESs around in the shops. Never knew anybody with one. I was very intrigued by them, but I didn't see. I never saw a Master System in the shop. It's really strange. Because a friend of mine had one. My best friend at school had one, and that's why I have an affinity for it rather than the NES. Do you have an NES back in your collection now? Or?
I do. I own the NES, but I have the Super Retro Trio, which plays NES games,
right,
in HDMI, because I don't have I don't have a CRT. I do have a CRT, it's just not set up. I don't have the room for it. So yes, I do have the NES back in my collection. I own very limited games for it. I own the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is one of the games I do remember getting actually now. I'm probably going to mix this up with maybe the SNES one, but I remember the top-down bits of the Turtles. I can't remember whether that was on the first one on the NES or whether that was the SNES one.
That was the NES one, I think.
We were in the van and it's driving around. That's one of the things I remember of that. I have the Mario and Duck Hunt dual Kart. Obviously can't play Duck Hunt, but I did a Mario run in response to Mark, and I have Top Gun.
Yes, I have Top Gun as well.
That's it so far. However, I do have a purchase coming down the line that will give me a lot more NES games.
That's good.
A deal with another fellow YouTuber for some NES games. I'm Kart only for that kind of stuff, so I don't go for the cardboard.
Yeah,
and then I'm gonna buy an EverDrive. Just gonna buy an EverDrive for the rest, I think.
Yeah, I mean, NES cardboard is a bit of a tricky one. I mean, I think I've got 2 or 3 maybe, and they're not the greatest condition. They're all right, but you see some in an absolute state. I mean, the NES for me, I'm quite happy with Kart only, to be honest with you. And I think it's a good. And the cartridges aren't overly expensive, and I do like how they look as well. They got that, we say that retro feel to them, but they have, they were great big giant things, completely different to anything else cartridge wise that you'd seen after that. The cartridges were always a lot smaller. The Mega Drive and Master System ones, the N64 ones, much smaller. But these, NES one's giant, great big hulking piece of plastic to jam into another big hulking piece of plastic.
The thing that gets me with the NES is it's pretty much like the old top loader VHS where you had to put it in and then you push it down. That's what I reminds me of the NES reminds me of, and it's the only until the Evercade VS comes out. I think it's the only one with that sort of style where it's got like a lift up flap with the top loader style. I can't think of any other console that's like that. If there is, I don't own one.
The only thing I can think of would be the Master System 2, which is it's got that flap on the front of it, and then you pull it back and you stick the cartridge on top. It's not as good as the NES. To me, that's like a massive selling point for the NES. I love the way it does that. It's never been one of my favourite consoles, but I'm getting a bit of an appreciation for it now. So it's I do like it. I think I've been a bit rough on it over the years, but I think it's slowly but surely creeping into my good side.
Yeah, in all honesty, I own the Master System, but it doesn't fit in my Kallax unit, so it's not plugged in. And I've got an EverDrive that plays all the Master System games anyway. So
yeah.
And I'm starting to try to play more of those retro type games, which is why I do the Modern Goes Retro stuff, just to to play some of those games, that either I haven't played in the past or sat on my shelves collecting dust. So
you're not the only one who has that problem. But
I think everybody does.
We do, yes. So after the NES, where did you go after there?
After the NES, we went to the Super Nintendo. Now, the Super Nintendo appeared when we'd moved house, so we moved from one end of the town to the other. So I didn't have as many friends then, so I'd spent a lot more time on my Super Nintendo than I would have done on NES. I remember coming home from school and it being set up on the kitchen table with, gotta say, it was a Link to the Past in it.
Right.
My dad was playing it at the time, not me. So, but then when it had Link to the Past in it, it was like, when I eventually got my hands on it and started playing it, that blew me away. Did that game? I'd never really played an RPG before, and playing Zelda was fantastic. Still one of my favorite Zelda games to this day. I will happily put it on and play through it now. It's a lot more difficult than I remember it being when I was a kid to what it is now. I don't know whether I think that's a pattern with a lot of games, though.
Okay. So what else did you have for it at the time? Could you remember anything special?
So Super Mario Brothers 3, I remember having for it. What else did we have? Krusty
Super Funhouse.
Krusty Super Funhouse. Super WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Had one of the Buster Bust Loose.
It was the Tiny Toons one. Yeah, it is Buster's Bust Loose on that one, because I've got that one.
I think that's all I remember off the top of my head.
There might have titles there,
but those would be the ones that I remember for the most part. And again, it'd be a case of swap and borrow and get other games to play. Killer Instinct as well, I remember.
Yeah. So there's some pretty decent games there then. So, the difference between the NES and the SNES, what did you make of that when you first saw it?
It was a huge jump. It's not much. There's not much of a power difference between the two of them in hindsight, but the difference between playing Mario on the SNES and Mario on the NES was just fantastic.
Yeah.
All the enhancements that you got from the extra bits of graphics, and the sound was so much better, and being able to save, having save states was just brilliant, because I don't remember there being any game on the NES that had that ability to save.
I don't think there was. I'm happy to be prepared to be proved wrong, but if anybody does know that, they can let us know. But I don't remember any.
So yeah, it just you know that not that people will see me, but that GIF that you see where the guy's mind explodes.
Yeah.
That was the kind of overall feeling that I remember having. You know, seeing that for the first time, seeing Zelda for the first time, and that iconic music was just amazing. Blown away by it. Obviously, Zelda existed prior, but I hadn't had no interaction with it. And then one game I do remember getting further down the line was Super Metroid, and finding Super Metroid just amazing, to the point now there's very few games that I want cardboard for any of them, but Super Metroid is one of them. I would really like the big box Super Metroid.
Yeah, I've seen it in. Yeah, I've seen it in CX a couple of times. I've seen the price for it, and I was like, nah, that's a bit too much to sit on a shelf and look nice. It'll look nice, but it's a pricey piece of kit, that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping at some point when I'm back down your way at Vintage Gamer or Old School Gamer, that one of them's got it in, and I can do a deal with that with Nick or something like that.
Yeah, you should. Yeah. I went to Old School Gaming the weekend just gone. He was shut. That was a wasted journey. I mean, Saturday, he won't open. I don't know. Surprises me sometimes, he does, Richard. But he's all right when he's open. He's got some great stuff in there. But yeah, that was a wasted journey. Do you collect SNES games now? I know you mentioned you would get Metroid, or is he just?
I've got a first stack of them. Don't know how many. Often, but I've got an EverDrive for the SNES as well. So,
well, that's the way a lot of people do it, Paul. You know, I've got emulated disc which I'll run and play on, and because chances are you're never going to run half the games anyway, are you? It's hard work tracking them down as it is.
No, I mean I've got a small list of games for all of the cartridge-based ones that I want the cartridges for, but the rest, if I play something on one of the EverDrives and I enjoy it, then I might buy the card for it. But it gives me the chance to play it before I buy.
Try before you buy.
Because I could end up in another situation because of that stupid Geordie that we were talking about earlier, who suggested I buy Fantasia to play.
Oh, on the Mega Drive.
Oh, it was awful game.
It's a terrible game. It is.
Absolutely awful.
I was so disappointed when that came out because I thought, that'll be really good. That I remember seeing it in the magazines. I thought that looks spot on, and then I read the reviews, and the reviews were absolutely shocking. And I watched your friend of mine, Big Game Al, play it a couple of weeks ago, and
that's my fault that Al played it, because I knew I was doing it on Modern Goods Retro, and I told Al to play it.
Yeah, it's just an absolutely shocking game. A real pity. What a bit of a waste of a license, that one, but yeah. Okay, so from the Super Nintendo, we move on to your next system.
So we move on to the Nintendo 64. Now, I briefly had the Nintendo 64, so I can't remember whether it was purchased for me or whether my dad had just borrowed it from someone and on a long-term borrow, and then we gave it back. I don't remember. What I do remember is one of the games that's on my list being the best thing I had ever seen and ever played.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah, and the Nintendo 64, people don't particularly like it for the most part. But if you think about it, it was the first console to bring 3D to Mario. It brought 3D to a lot of things before 3D was ever a big thing. So I appreciate the 64 for what it is. I do have a 64. Again, I've got a selection of games for the 64. There are two games in particular I want the cardboard for on the 64, and that's all I want the cardboard for. And I do have an EverDrive for the 64 as well.
Did you buy that on your last trip to Vintage Gamer? Gears
No,
of
that
Drive.
was this. That was the
That was
SNES
the
one.
SNES one. Yeah, I mean, you bought one while you were down there. That's right.
Yeah, that was the SNES one. No, I just purchased this off of eBay recently. It's some of the 64 games are a bit pricey, and the ones it's another system again. I've got a small selection that I want, and I'll get those on the cart. But then the rest, I'll try them, and then if I enjoy them, I'll do that. I'll buy them. If not, Nintendo don't sue me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, regular viewers of my channel will know I've picked up paid 30 odd quid for a boxed N64 game recently. So, and I've got quite a few box games as well. So I've been quite lucky on some of those. But I know what you say when people don't like the system. I think it's one of these that sort of splits people right down the middle. People either love the N64 or they absolutely hate it. There's very little middle ground between the two. And I remember it came out because my friends had a Super Nintendo and then he upgraded to an N64. So we played a hell of a lot of time on that. Most of the multiplayer games of the day, Mario Kart and 64 and GoldenEye, etc., all the usual favourites. And I like it. I like it. Yeah, like the games, that era, the Saturn games, the PlayStation, a lot of PlayStation 1 games. Some of them haven't aged particularly well because of the polygon graphics. But as you said, it was the first, 3D Mario. And when that came out, everybody was blown away by it. Whether you like Mario or not, everybody was just so impressed by how technologically advanced it was and completely different to anything we'd seen.
Yeah, I mean, some of the games, some do still stand up, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them, they struggle with that clunky nature of the controls because it doesn't have the double thumbstick, so it doesn't have that option of using the double thumbsticks for the camera and things.
Yeah, I have my opinions on the controller, but I'm not going to go back into them again. So,
for the most part, I like it. My uncle used to hold it in a weird way. He used to hold it like I can't even do how he used to hold the 64 pad, but he used to hold it in a weird way. But I like it. I'm going to be controversial and say I prefer that than the original PlayStation controller.
That is controversial, yeah.
I mean, now probably when I was younger, I wouldn't have preferred it, but the original PlayStation controller just feels too small in my hands, whereas that feels, quite right. So if it feels small in my hands, I don't know how Feed Me Chicken or Martin, that UK game, are going to get on because they've got some big mitts. So.
Oh well, Feed Me Chicken's already given me a sort of user's guide to how to hold the N64 controller properly, which I'm not sure that came across on the audio, but because we were talking to each other like we are now on camera. And I should have followed this up and done a video on it. I may do that at some point in the future. But now you're holding it wrong. You hold it this way. You don't hold the two outside prongs. You hold the middle one and the other one there. And I thought, why? Because it doesn't look right or feel right. So I haven't tried it properly since I spoke to him about it, but I will do and see how I get on with it. It may lead to a new appreciation for the controller, but I just didn't like it. But that's by the by. But I do like the system. I've got a lot of time for it.
Yeah, I do have a lot of time for it. I need to buy the expansion pack for mine because some of my games won't play. Just the RAM expansion. That was something else that was revolutionary about the 64, the ability to expand the RAM.
Yeah, and you got the rumble pack to plug into the bottom of the controller as well. That came. I know PlayStation would have got had the rumble function afterwards, didn't it? Afterwards, at the same time.
Didn't it was afterwards because the first pad I don't think has a rumble function, and then they released the six axis, the
dual shock, I think they called it. That was it. Because I remember when I got one of those the first time, I'd heard about but never played one. I was like, whoa, this is this is great, wow. But I remember the N64, there's a unit you plugged underneath and did it that way. But,
I've got one over there, but I'm not going to pick it up and show you.
Yeah. I've been very lucky because the three N64s I picked up have all got the expansion pack in them. Every single one of them I got from Car Boot have got the expansion pack in there. And at the moment, I think that's going for about 40-50 quid.
The cheapest one I was looking at was 72, I think, on eBay at the minute.
Yeah, I saw one in CX a few weeks back, and I think it was priced at 48. And I
Yeah, I
thought,
saw one like that.
blimey.
I'd probably buy it, to be honest. But
Yeah, I thought, blimey, I struck out getting 3 actually left in there. I think 2 of them are official Nintendo. One's a game third-party one, but it works absolutely fine. So
yeah, there's a couple of cheap Chinese ones, but I don't know whether they blow my M64 up or not. So
that's the risk you take, isn't it? When you do something
yeah,
like that. Yeah. Okay, so staying with this era, because after the N64, you then moved on to another console which was popular at the time.
yeah. So like I said, the 64 was a short-lived thing. Moved on to the PlayStation 1, but we had a chipped PlayStation 1, so we were getting games for pennies, really.
Yeah.
But that allowed me to play so many games that I wouldn't have bought, or wouldn't have, I would never have fell in love with another game on my list if it wasn't for having kind of the chip PlayStation 1. That game, admittedly, I'll explain how I got that game, but it wasn't via the chip. But I wouldn't have played things like Wu-Tang, Taste the Pain. I wouldn't have played the Oddworld series, just purely because they wouldn't have been games that I would have probably picked up. I'd have picked up what you would consider maybe the main canon for the PlayStation, the likes of the Spyros or your Crash games. But this was starting to get to the wane of my gaming between. So when did I have it? I'd have been about 13, so probably had that till for a couple of years. Was playing all the games that we were picking up dirt cheap, chipped, and then I hit about 14, 15, and was then going out with friends and stuff, and my gaming just dwindled down.
So it's amazing how many people fall in and out of gaming as they go through. I think probably that's maybe one of the youngest ages I've heard so far. Because I mean, that would probably be the most time a lot of people will be playing games. But I know you said early on, you were more of a go out and do stuff kid as opposed to sort of staying indoors.
Yeah, I grew up on a council estate for the most part. Where we lived was a council estate. Me and my mates were out. We'd send people into the off license for us. We'd go on the park. We'd get drunk. We'd do things that smoke certain substances you shouldn't smoke and things like that. So yeah, I wouldn't say I really fell out of love with gaming, but I just didn't do it as much. I was out doing other things. So the PlayStation stayed there, and the eras after. Obviously, I came back in somewhere along the line with love of it, but yeah, having that PlayStation and then playing games that I wouldn't necessarily have played, or that were, because PlayStation games wouldn't have been cheap, or you wouldn't have been able to get into the market properly at that time.
Because when I got my PlayStation, it was just after I'd started working. So for me, it was all of a sudden I can buy this myself with my own money, which was great. So that's all. That in a way, it probably moved me along in my gaming, because I was still got my Amiga at the time. I was still very much focused on that and playing on other people's SNESes and N64. So this was the first time I had an opportunity to own a console, and with hard earned money. And first couple of paydays I had, things like, wow, what am I going to do with all this? And a friend of mine had he bought a PlayStation when after he started working. He said, "Oh, come and see this," and I was like, "Oh wow, okay." And I thought, yeah, that's really good. Then I thought I could buy one of those, just walk into a shop and buy it and not have to worry about it. So it was great. You mentioned a game there, and I just sort of triggered something with me. Wu-Tang Taste the Pain.
Yeah.
Now, for some reason, I've got a copy of that. I don't know why I've got a copy of it. But you mentioned that as sort of, I don't know, was there a memory there, or was it just something you're into at the time?
Yeah. So part of me remembers that having to find out off of the primitive internet a code that would allow me to have all the blood and guts and stuff on. So I think the copy I had was actually an American version,
right?
Because I think we are in the UK with censorship, we're more inclined to censor. We're more inclined to censor bad language and sex over violence.
Yeah.
So I think when it was released in the UK, you didn't need that code to have all the blood and stuff. Whereas when with the US one, you did, and I got it, and I saw somewhere that was asking for this code. I think it was on the game itself, and didn't really. We had internet, but it wasn't the greatest. So trying to find somewhere to get this code to put in is a memory that kind of sits with me.
Yeah,
and it may be a memory I'm completely remembering wrong, but it's become true in my head. So that's
yeah. We're in a situation where a lot of us get into it. It's either I'm sure I've made that up, but I'm not. It could be true, or I think it's definitely true. But when it turns out somebody says no, it wasn't completely wrong. You're making memories up, but that's what happens. You're never quite sure. It all merges into one as such.
Also at sort of 14, 15, I was starting to like some hip hop stuff. It didn't become massive in my music taste until I went to college and Eminem became a thing. But there was still some hip hop stuff that was creeping in then, and I'm sure I must have heard some Wu-Tang stuff at that time.
I don't even know why I've got it, because I'm not really a massive. I was in my younger days. I was very into my music, so I would have certainly have listened to Wu-Tang at some point, but I don't know why I bought the game, because it just mixes two genres which really don't appeal to me nowadays: fighting games and hip hop music. But it's one of those. But I must have been somewhere at a car boot, or I thought I must get that because it's cheap. I just picked it up, like most of the stuff that's on my shelf. So. Is it a system you have fond memories of, the PlayStation one?
I would say so. Yeah, it's another one of them that was dead simple because it was chipped, and a lot of my friends had chipped ones. It was dead simple just to. I've got this copy of this game. We'll just swap them around. So that's what I remember the most. It became a social thing for me. The PlayStation, you go to friends' houses and you play, or you'd swap the games around. Your friends would play something, they tell you about it, or I'd go to the local guy who did all the copies and just say, look, I want a copy of this. Can you give me a copy of it? And then he'd go and he'd pull out this cardboard box with a million copies of different games in, and hand you a copy over, and you'd hand him a couple of quid. So I do have some fond memories for it. My earlier consoles, my memories aren't as fond as later generations. Maybe when I got to like 18, that's where it starts coming back more of that fondness. But yeah, I do still have fond memories of the PlayStation. But I'm not a PlayStation guy as such, I guess. I think people would say, I'm more known for another brand of console. But I do still have, I have all four. Well, I have 4 out of the 5 PlayStation consoles now.
Same here. So definitely one of my more favourite incarnations of PlayStation, but that's just another story for another time. Right, so let's break away from your gaming history for the moment, because obviously the reason we have you here is to talk about these games that you selected to take with you to Desert Island. And like I said, I always like to try to go through these beforehand and look at what people have picked up. And there's some that we've had before, some we haven't had before, and some in a position where they haven't been before either. So it's always nice to get people's opinions as to why they're there. The first one on your list, obviously, is a franchise we've spoken about many times on this program before. But more importantly, this is a version that we haven't had. So would you like to introduce your first game?
I'm assuming this is Pokemon Sapphire we're talking about.
It is. Yes, it is, yes.
So, yeah, Pokemon Sapphire did everything. It was the first one from memory, it's the first one that you could have that was in colour. It was the first Pokemon game that introduced the second generation of Pokemon. So you had more than the 151 original. It had a great story to it, and I don't know. I picked it up probably at a time where I was doing some handheld gaming, and it just gripped me, and the other ones hadn't gripped me, but Sapphire did. I was a bit. I still am to a degree with the way Pokemon games are. It still annoys me that they have two varieties, and there's Pokemon on one game and Pokemon on another game, and you've got to have both copies or a way to link them together. That still arcs me a bit with Pokemon games, but it's the one series that I'd have been watching the cartoon at the time as well. And again, I enjoyed every minute I played of Sapphire. And unfortunately, it's one that I don't own a copy of.
Oh, right. Okay.
They're
Yeah.
really hard to, well, they're not hard to get hold of, but they're really expensive. And I just can't bring myself to buy them.
So
I do own a lot of the DS ones. Don't get me wrong. There's, I nearly picked one of black and white on the DS, but Sapphire for me was the one that I remember being the first one in color, and it was a case of going from. I mean, the graphics weren't any different really, but it was a case of going from that grainy Game Boy to seeing it in color on the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah. So you were playing Pokemon games before that one as well.
I'd played the first iterations. Is it red, blue, yellow?
Yellow. I think I've got yellow for some reason. not my sort of thing. And I suppose you watch the cartoons, etc. That probably would have inspired your picture. But what sets this apart from other Pokemon? I mean, you said I know there's a great story involved to it as well, but I mean, apart from that and having more Pokemon in there must be something which brings you back to want to pick this one as a particular standalone title to take with you.
I think it's just the nostalgia thing, Russ. To be fair, I think that's where I picked this one from. This was the nostalgia of it being the one that actually grabbed my attention and said, "Look at me, don't put me down." And I remember times of being in the car with my dad driving somewhere, and I'd be playing this, and I'd play it for the full trip, and I wouldn't even say, are we nearly there yet or whatever. I'd have to stop to change batteries, but other than that, it's just, I think it's the nostalgia factor of it. When you watch a film for the first time and it just grips you and it becomes one of your favorite things, and then when you think about it over time, you don't know why, but it just grabs you and it keeps hold. And I think that's what it is for me. It had a massive variety of Pokemon at the time, and it was just seeing it in color. I think it's probably like for the older generation, maybe the first time they went to watch Wizard of Oz and it went from being in black and white to color. I think it's just that whole uniqueness, I guess. I think is the word I'm looking for. And it's not unique now, obviously, because of graphics have advanced, and the Pokemon on the Switch is phenomenal. But
I can see what you're saying there, and I think a lot of people, when they come on this, they pick the games they pick it either because they're going to be on a desert island, and again, it's sort of game if you're on a desert island, it would take up a fair chunk of your time playing it anyway. There's also a nostalgia, a feeling for it, and I think you've hit the nail right on the head there of why people like, years later still like certain games, because it brings back that memory of that time when you were playing it in the back of the car, and it just takes you all the way back there to your childhood. And it's a lot of people get very much involved in it, and I can see why.
I think apart from two on my list, it's the nostalgia thing you'll find with me. You will have to prompt me as we go down which order, because I've got them in a different order to the order I gave you, I think. So
that's well, I'll shout. I'd usually let people say it, but I'll introduce it and then you can jump in. That's absolutely fine. But yeah, I mean, we haven't that one, and I know Martin, I think, picked Pokemon Ruby. I think he did as well, and Pokemon's cropped up in the death slot at the very end as well. It's one of those games that but again, people are either into or they're not. I'm not. You are. So that's fine. It's
I
how
think
it is.
I think Al had it on his, didn't he? But
Did
not
Al?
Sapphire. I think he had one of them.
Al, big game. Al, yeah, he had yellow. So we've had yellow, we've had ruby, and just Pokemon in general as things people don't like, or they want to play more of. But again, if it falls in that category, you like it, or you'd like it, or you don't like it.
Yeah.
It's something I'll give a serious consideration. If I was in that situation on a desert island, it's something I'll give consideration to. Is would I want to take it as something I want to sit down and play? But having the attention span of a fruit fly probably isn't the best game for me to be taking with me, because the very, very thin patience, I think, is getting stretched thin by. I just can't. That's why I couldn't get in the first place. Played for an hour. I thought I just can't get into this. I just can't get into this. Nothing's happening.
That's the other thing with Pokemon games. Everybody will play them different. So everybody will have a different team that they, team of Pokemon that they want. Everybody will train their Pokemon different, and that adds to that factor as well. Especially now that you can play online essentially and battle other players on certain games. That adds to that fact that you pick your Pokemon up, you train them different, and you go up against people who train theirs different. And I don't know. There's different. I think everybody likes to play it different. It's not like there's a strategy to it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's not straight. It's not a linear thing. There is I suppose everyone has their own way of doing it and tackling it from a certain perspective. So I get that. It's just that it reminds me. We say like the training process, and it reminds me of when I played football management games where you have to then start introducing training schedules, otherwise your players get fatigued. And I'm sitting there, I can't even bother to sit there and work out who to put this on there. I remember just like downloading tactics from the internet. Oh, this is a good training tactic. Use that one. So I just found one and stuck it on there, and every time I played, I just use that one every single time because I just don't want to be doing that. I want to play the game. So that's why.
Needs you as his director of football, Russ.
It's bloody rubbish. I tell you, with Premier Manager 98 he's been playing at the moment. Oh dear me. Rioting in the streets of Doncaster, I think that's what it was. That's the way he handled it. Anyway, that's
that won't make a difference to Doncaster, to be fair.
I might make slight improvements. I don't know. It might be everyday life. He's walking right into the Viper's nest with that one. Okay, so that's Pokemon Sapphire. Your next game on your list. Now, I've got to say, this is the game that convinced me that this series wasn't all about being pummeled by your best mates all the time, and a little bit fairer than the two previous incarnations.
It's this Double Dash.
It's Mario Kart Double Dash, yeah.
Yeah, if we do that, if you give me an idea as to what it is, it might be it, because I've got them in a different order. So
there's one I won't be able to give you anything about, but you'll know what that is. I've never heard this game before. So yeah, but we're talking about Double Dash now on the GameCube.
It's probably my favourite game on the GameCube. This will go back to a story later on about when I was at uni as to why I enjoy it. But you're right, it's more fair. It's fantastic in that you've got I don't believe there's ever been another Mario which has had the ability to switch drivers with passengers.
You're right, yeah. It's the only one.
I don't know why why they've never done another iteration with it as two. The courses were amazingly well designed, I thought. Had more than the standard linear 8 characters or whatever you could get, 12 characters. And you could mix and match the teams. And you still had that factor of, if your mates were battering you, you would get a blue shell and you'd fire it at them and you'd get across the line. And I think I might use my first swear word here, but you'd be getting close to the line, you get pummeled by the blue shell and bastard would come out. And then somebody would come flying past you.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll explain more of the story of the bastard thing later. But yeah, Double Dash just I couldn't pick another Mario Kart game over Double Dash. And you know, I've got 7, I've got 8, I've got the original Mario Kart and Mario Kart 64, and yeah, Double Dash for me is just phenomenal. There's no, just it was the perfect Mario Kart in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a feeling that Cooper's World might be turning, might be calling me names, but it's the perfect Mario Kart. It had such balance and just, yeah, I've got so much nostalgia for it because of the period of time where it was in as well that I was playing it.
Was that the first Mario Kart that had the baby park track in it, where you whizzing around that really tiny?
Yes.
The laps are really, really short, and it's just absolute chaos.
Yes, but you do more than the standard 3 laps, don't you? I think you do
That's
5,
you do about eight or something like that. I think it is. Yeah, I remember playing it for the first time. I thought, this is crazy, but I love it. It's good. You've covered pretty much every aspect that I would agree with as to why I prefer that Mario Kart over most of the others. I've got 8, and I played 8 a lot on the Switch, and I played 8 a lot on the Wii U, and I like Mario Kart 8 a lot. But Double Dash was, you said, the two riders never done that before or since, and I don't understand why. But then I think about the GameCube itself. That they gave Luigi his own game. The Mario game on Mario Sunshine was completely different to any other Mario game that had come out. In fact, it wouldn't follow the usual Mario thing. So Mario Kart Double Dash is completely different to any Mario Kart game before or since. So whether they're trying to experiment a little with the series there, but I loved it. I just sort of felt this is almost all those times I spent getting obliterated thinking Mario Kart was the most unfair game. And you're right, the earlier versions they are desperately unfair. Mario Kart 64 I think is less unfair than the original one. It's more Double Dash is certainly less. Is more forgiving, and you get a better experience from it. And I love it. I mean, I'm lucky enough to have a copy of it, and I got it a long, long time ago when it was about £5 at a car boot, which I didn't. It was a lot of money to pay them for a game, but I thought, well, it's a Mario Kart game, and they're going to go up in price. When you see the price of, as I saw at the weekend, what Mario Kart 64 is currently knocking around at, £50 for a box copy. Yes. It's insane. It's insane. But I love this one. It's a great Mario Kart game.
I don't know whether you've seen the price of GameCube games recently. They're
stupid.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because there's no way of emulating it properly. That might be what it is. But the one thing I will praise Nintendo for, every step of the way they do their own thing, and they do it well. Even the Wii U was done well for what it was. I think the Wii U should have maybe held off and got to the Switch stage. But whatever Nintendo do, since Sega kind of left the market, Nintendo's innovation has just been phenomenal, and they follow their own path, which I would applaud them for over and above the big two, because they follow their own path. The games hold their value, and there's no getting away from that. And I think they hold their value because Nintendo do them very well.
Yeah, I very much agree with that. It's a very good point. And I mean, I had a GameCube when it came out, and I didn't appreciate it at the time. But you're right. I mean, the reason I got it, it was like it was a gaming machine. It was a little cube, completely different to other consoles before and again afterwards. And then you had the innovation of the Wii. You mentioned the Wii U. I mean, I like the Wii U. I know some people don't. And then the Switch. So it's constant innovation and progress all the way through. And a lot of the games reflect that quality. Some of them don't, but some of them do. But again, the price of GameCube games. I mean, there was a time where you could find GameCube games reasonably cheap. I say reasonably cheap. You might pay not stupid money you are now, but right now it's just absolutely insanity. Some of the prices on things, and they've never been cheap ones to pick up. They've always, even when I say they've been cheap games available before, they're still expensive compared to other systems of the time, which don't appear to have that many games in that higher price bracket.
I mean, can you imagine if they'd have stuck a handle like they did do on the GameCube onto the Xbox? You'd have to have been weight training permanently to try and lift that Xbox. And I love the Xbox, but
I do as well. Yeah, it is an absolute
so
brick. It's an absolute brick of a console. I carried one around a town centre a couple of years back, and I didn't realise how heavy it was, and I honestly fear for the carrier bag it was in. I thought this carrier bag's going to go at some point. It's going to hit the floor. It's going to smash into pieces. It's not going to smash into pieces. It's built solidly, is it? But
it's the Nokia 3210 of the console world.
Yes, yes. It's a great thing, though. It really is. It really is. Yeah. But when you know what's in there and why, that's why it's so heavy as such. But the GameCube was great because, like you said, that the handle was on there and you could just carry it around. You carry it to your mate's house or whatever. Yeah, but good choice, guy. I agree with that Mario Kart, and that started my Mario Kart isn't. Mario Kart isn't all about being beaten unfairly every single time. There is actually a good side to it, and some people don't like it. But
I'm not a big fan of racing games, so Mario Kart for me is more of whilst it's a racing game, it's a party game more than anything.
Yeah,
it's there for fun.
Yeah.
So for me, I just love it. I know I could put my GameCube downstairs, have 4 pads plugged in, have mates round, and we could play Mario Kart to the death.
Well, that's what it's all about, isn't it? That's what you got the 4, especially the GameCube 4 controller ports on there. That's what it's there for, party gaming, and you got a great game choice there. Okay, so next game on your list is the one I don't know anything about.
Is it begin with S?
No, I know that one because a previous guest has informed me about that game. It's the one that begins with B.
Oh, okay. So
okay.
I know, yeah.
So this is where I'm now completely in your hands as to explain what this is all about, and why you've chosen it.
This is the game series that I will always say needs a remaster, needs a remake, needs a new game in the series. It'll never happen because of the politics that are behind the studios and stuff. Assuming we're talking Blood Omen Legacy of Kain here.
We are. Now you've added Legacy of Kain afterwards. I'm now panicking because I'm pretty sure somebody else has mentioned Legacy of Kain, or they were going to mention Legacy of Kain. Anyway, carry on, mate. Yeah.
So, Legacy of Kain's a series of games. Blood Omen, from memory, is the first one in that series. You start off as a nobleman, and you're brutally murdered, and you offer your soul, and you become a vampire, and you're on a quest to heal the pillars of Nosgoth. This is a game that, so my dad used to work with a video rental man. They drive around and rent videos out of the back of the car.
Yeah.
And then they moved on to DVDs and renting some games out. And this one came, he brought a box in just to make sure it wasn't in the car, and it was on the top. And I was like, can I have a go at that? The artwork on it looks all right. I quite liked it. I put it in, and I think I played it solid for about 6 hours. Just it's a kind of 2.5D semi top down look. You like I said, there's all the vampire lore in it. There are elements where you can see him sucking the blood, but he doesn't suck the blood as in biting like a normal vampire does. He has the ability to just suck it in. The voice acting in it was fantastic. Storyline in it is tremendous. And it had FMV. I think it's one of the first not F&V as such, because that would be live action, but it had sort of animated videos, cutscenes, with fantastic voice acting. Even the bits, even though it's repetitive in terms of, you know, when you're slaying people, he shouts "Bay Victus," I think it is. I've never looked to see what that actually means, but and it there was just, I hadn't played anything like it at that time. You know, it's I think Square Enix created it. Crystal Dynamics are behind it, so I think Crystal Dynamics are the ones who were behind Gex as well.
Okay, yeah.
But then it was so they'd all been bought, and things went around. So there's been Soul Reaver, Blood Omen 2, Soul Reaver 2, and then another one that I can't remember the name of that was Xbox only. And I think there's been 5 games in this whole series, and then it died a death. I would champion for it to be brought back whenever, you know, if I ever got to be in front of somebody like Phil Spencer or the head of gaming for Sony, you know, I would champion them to go and talk to the developers to bring this series back, because who doesn't love vampire lore? You know, I mean, there are people who won't, but vampire lore is quite big in cinema, and with the ability that we've got to make games now, with the story arc that this has, you could. Yeah. I cannot sing its praises enough. I love it. I think it's a brilliant game.
No, you can tell it's a game you're very, very passionate about.
It's the game why I still have a massive soft spot for the PlayStation.
Right.
You know, I love this game.
I know a couple of people who've mentioned this series to me. When you said Legacy of Kain after that, I thought, I know the series now we're talking about, because a few people have mentioned to me, or I know a few people that are quite big on this series, and it has a tremendous following. And if it's got the same following that people are passionate about as you are, then makes you wonder why they don't sort of do an updated, you know, remake or remaster of it.
I think it's stuck in studio hell.
Dear.
Yeah, so I think much like although I believe there's a new one coming out, Prince of Persia. I think that was stuck in studio hell for quite a while, but I believe they're re-releasing or remaking one of those. So, but yeah, I think currently it's stuck in studio hell. They cancelled the 6th game in the series, and there was videos leaked of the 6th game in the series. They got so far with it, and it looked amazing. In fact, it would have been the 7th game, because they released a MMO called Nosgoth, I think it was just called.
Right.
So that and that wasn't very successful, which might have led to why they cancelled it and why it's stuck in studio hell.
Was that a departure from the regular series as such? Do you think maybe that change in direction sort of took that opportunity of further going from it?
So it was set in the same world, but yeah, it took a different approach to it. Whereas the sixth main canon game, which was in development and was cancelled, looks like it very much follows on line. Legacy of Kain Defiance was the 5th one, and it looks like it follows on that kind of path. But this one, the thing that sets this one apart from the rest for me is because it's not in 3D, it's in that 2.5D. So it's very Zelda-esque, I guess.
Yeah.
It has slightly less blocky graphics, but it's very Zelda-esque. And there's a lot of puzzle solving in it, as well as action. So I guess I would classify it as Zelda with vampires. Or 2.5D Zelda with vampires.
That's a selling point. You could throw that in front of the executives you get in front of and say, look, it's Zelda with vampires. Come on. You see the success. People like vampires, people like Zelda. Come on, put the two together, and what have you got?
Well, you'd hope that would be enough to sell it.
I would hope it would be, because these mashups and combinations, and you bought something there. You know, this is basically Zelda with vampires. You think, well, what? Somebody else made that idea. You never know. You never know who's listening to this. Somebody must, that's a good idea. I'll do that. Maybe we'll see. Yeah. Okay. So that's a series again I've heard about, but I've never. I don't know if I've got it. I've got a Legacy of Kain game on the shelf behind me. I've got Legacy of Kain Defiance.
So that's OG Xbox. I think it's Xbox only.
PlayStation 2, that one.
Oh no, it's not Xbox only then. I don't know what I'm talking about.
It's the only one I've got, and I think the only reason I picked it up because people kept telling me, "Oh, you must play one of those games." So, yeah, it's sat on the shelf. There we go, like everything else.
That's the first one to combine Kain and Raziel. So Raziel's the character in Soul Reaver, and Kain's the main character in Blood Omen.
Do I need to have played any of the games previously to? Oh, hang on, so I've got Soul Reaver 2 as well. Yeah, there we go. Do I need to play any of the games previously in the series before I start playing any of those?
Not really, but I would suggest that you play Soul Reaver before you play Soul Reaver 2, just to get used to the controls and get some of the lore. But you could play Blood Omen 2 without playing Blood Omen 1 from memory of playing it.
Okay. I'll see if the other ones I can't see if they're too far out the way. But no, again, you see, it's got my interest. I'm thinking, okay, well, I've got the games, well, I'll give them a go now. Because one of the great joys for me about doing this is finding out what people like games that I've never heard of before, that I may have simply dismissed as that's not my sort of thing. But when I hear people talk about them, I go, oh, you know what? You've sold that to me a little bit. So I've got a list now of stuff I keep here that I think, right, okay, that's one I may have a go at. I've already got that one, so there's never any episode I'll do with this where there's at least maybe, at least 1 to 2 games where I go, do you know what? I'm going to try and find a copy of that and go on your recommendation. We'll come back to the rest of this list in a bit. We're going to go back to gaming history now and talk about this fascinating period, which we had a chat about beforehand, which I think is going to be really interesting. To listen to. We left it at the PlayStation 1. Let's pick up the story as to where you went after that.
Okay, so like PlayStation 1, 14, 15, hanging out with the wrong crowd, getting drunk, doing whatever. I eventually got good enough GCSE grades to get to college to do my A-levels, but I didn't do much gaming then. I was pulled away from the wrong crowd, did my A-levels, met 2 lads who I met 3 lads technically, who I'm now really, really close friends with. Like 2 guys who are, I'm going to have 2 of them as my best men at my wedding, and the other one I'm likely to have as an usher.
Right.
We've been that close since 16, 17. Did college, got enough grades to get to uni, went to uni to do my degree, moved into a house, me and my best mate, we shared a room, 2 other lads. So the first year, me and my best mate shared a room, so one of the other lads had PlayStation 2 in his room. Then I used my hard-earned student loan to buy an original Xbox because I'm a massive wrestling fan. I wanted it for WWE Raw, which is not very good.
I don't know. I think it was that bad. I know it's not a great game, but I had it when I had my Xbox. I thought it was all right.
It was missing a campaign, which was then addressed in 2, and then in WrestleMania 21. And then my best mate bought the GameCube. So this is where my love of Mario Kart comes from. Because there were many time so me and my best mate shared the largest room in the house. So the 4 of us that were in the house, 5 of us that were in the house, we'd have we'd have Mario Kart double dash parties where we would effectively get drunk and play double dash. and then obviously played the Wind Waker and stuff like that when my mate had that. I had the Xbox set up downstairs on the small TV that we put downstairs, which had, I had 2 pads, and then eventually bought 2 more pads for the 4 pads for the Xbox.
Yeah.
So we could play Halo and stuff multiplayer, or the wrestling multiplayer. And then we'd play GameCube stuff upstairs. And then the year after, we moved into the house next door from the house we were in.
Right.
And 2 of the lads that we were living with, they moved on, and we ended up with a couple of other guys. One of the guys who came in, he had a Nintendo 64, which we set up in the living room. And we used to play, GoldenEye drinking games and various other bits and pieces. So in that 3-year period of uni, I was lucky enough to have sampled 5 different consoles with a PlayStation 2, which had completely bypassed me. Then I fell back in love as such with the gaming, with the Xbox coming out. So many games came out for the Xbox, and Raw was what I bought the Xbox for originally, but then there was games that I found like Azaric and Nightcaster and what's the Brute Force. And a lot of people will shout for Halo, and that's all well and good, but there are so many good games on the Xbox that were exclusive to the Xbox.
That's right.
So this is where my first taste of Xbox came. It was the most powerful console on the market at the time. Yeah. Effectively, like you said, you understand why it's as heavy as it was, because it had all the guts of a PC. Effectively, I could send my own music to it and listen to my, copy my CDs to it and listen to my music. And if you didn't have that Xbox, you wouldn't have things like Kodi, because that all came from Xbox Media Center, from what I can gather.
Yep, I think you're right on that. Yeah, and you could play DVDs on it as well with the adapter, and did everything, didn't it?
Yeah, so you needed the remote control with the adapter, didn't you, for the DVDs? But as soon as you put that into one of the controller ports, it was a DVD player.
Yeah,
it was. I'm looking down there because that's where it is. Not that anybody can see where I'm looking at. I was actually I'm just going to start a new kind of small series where I go through some of my Xbox games and review them one at a time. So I've just recorded the first one, and I've just moved on to the next game that I'm going to play through. I've got that many. I mean, it's probably my second largest collection after the 360, and it's criminally. A lot of the games I buy just sit there, and I need to start getting through some of these games, because we're all guilty of it. We buy these things, we put them on the shelves, and don't play them. Which is why I went through a series of culling a lot of my game, a lot of my collection.
Yeah, I tend to use the rather morbid phrase "time's running out," because you get to say, I'm never going to play all of these. I'm maybe going to play a third of them or whatever. I always use that phrase, but your experience there is probably dreamland for a lot of people at that time, to have all those different consoles set up in different rooms and just have that on tap as such. And you're also not the first person to come here and say they spent a student loan on something gaming related, or other bits. Because the last one I did with Goodwin's Place, which you won't have heard because we're recording this before that's gone up, but he did a similar thing with his student loan, and I did a similar thing with a student loan as well. So you're not the only person. I did, you probably were the only person I speak to about it either. Somebody else will cough up and say they did exactly the same thing as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was in that lucky period that I had, I was living with some lads who, we weren't hardcore gamers, I wouldn't classify myself as a hardcore gamer, and now, it's my go-to, between that and watching films, they're my go-to wind down, pastimes. But but yeah, lucky that the lads like the gaming. You know, the we like similar things in terms of, you know, playing GoldenEye or Mario Kart 64 with set up in the living room. You know, and students, so obviously we're getting, you know, it's all done with beer and everything.
Yeah.
But you know, it's I guess, yeah, I'm lucky in that sense that a lot of people may not have had that experience, that, you know, they've had that chance to have that many experiences that way.
No, you're right, and I think it's an experience we'd probably all like to have had at some point. But then again, a lot of it we just sort of simulated by going around people. You have something in a console, you go around 3 or 4 of you pile around, and you end up playing on whatever it is until whatever hour of the morning it is. And you know, I've done it. We've gone out on the lash and come back and sat down for about 4 or 5 hours and just played GoldenEye steaming drunk afterwards. And you can tell we played GoldenEye steaming drunk afterwards by what happened. But yeah, it's just a great experience of doing it. And again, that era, that early sort of 2000s when those consoles came out, and we're moving into a different area of gaming. We've got the disc-based games now. Prominently, the cartridges have been phased out, and you got this new generation of consoles, and it's just a good time to be a gamer, I guess, really, back then.
I mean, to go from the PlayStation 1 to the Xbox, that was a bigger leap than NES to SNES.
From what you said earlier, yeah.
But even now, yes, some of the games do suffer from that blocky, pixelated look. I guess it doesn't help that I play on a modern TV with those consoles, but the Xbox for me still can hold its own with a lot of the games that are there. I don't have any affinity for the PlayStation 2 as such. I own one, and there are games that I do like, but the Xbox will always be the best console of that generation for me, in that it's the most powerful one of the two. The three, if you include the GameCube.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would have Xbox, GameCube, PlayStation 2. That was how I would do it. Again, I always wanted the PlayStation 2. When I got one, I'm not saying I was underwhelmed by it, but it didn't grab me as I thought it would do. Whereas with the Xbox, there's just something about it. And the GameCube's quirky because it sits in between the two. Okay, you can't do the DVDs and the audio stuff with the GameCube, but if you want a games machine, flat out, just to play games on, that's exactly what it did.
It's what Nintendo do the best at.
Exactly. So yeah, but I mean that sounds like a great time in your life to be getting into that.
Yeah, it was good. It was a great time.
Yeah,
I wouldn't trade that time for anything, to be honest.
No, that's good. Right then, so we'll move away from your gaming history and come back to the last bit shortly. Let's go back to your gaming list, your 6 games. We're halfway through that now, and you can do these in any order you want now because you know which ones they are. I don't need to prompt you on these, do I now?
No.
So you can take us in any direction you wish to do so.
So, well, let's go down back to the Nintendo 64. Back to one of the 2 games that I would love to have on cardboard. This game is just amazing. I don't think I've picked up another game in this series that I think can get anywhere near the joy I had playing this game, and that is The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. The only game that can get close, the 2 in the Zelda that can get close to are A Link to the Past and Majora's Mask. Breath of the Wild was good, but there was too much. I loved the Wind Waker, but again, there was a lot to do. Ocarina of Time was just an absolute feat of game making, in my opinion. It combined everything that you want from a game. Brilliant storyline, great characters, great action, amazing landscapes, great boss fights, absolutely phenomenal soundtrack. There, I would have anybody defy me that they could turn Ocarina of Time on and not hum along to some of the songs that get played, especially things like the Song of Storms, which is very, very, very catchy. And everything about Ocarina was just amazing. And to get that was I think it was one of the first games on the 64 I'd ever seen. And I actually didn't play it. I was watching my dad play it. I didn't realize I'd actually, gamed this much with my dad, I guess. But watching him play it and then playing it myself, it was a great game. I can't say any more about it other than it's fantastic.
Yeah, I must. At some point in my life, I actually owned 3 copies of this loose cartridges, and it was just after CX started taking retro in again. I traded 2 of them pretty much straight away. And I remember having this game. I thought, you know what? I've heard so much about this game and this series because I've never played a Zelda game until that point. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to sit down and play this. And I put it in. And in typical me fashion, played it for about an hour, and I thought, nothing's really happening. There's a lot of running around, not doing a great deal, and that was about as far as I got, and I haven't been back to it since. That's probably about 10 years ago.
I'm similar with Breath of the Wild. Don't get me wrong, it's an absolutely amazing looking Zelda game.
It is.
But there's just so much... I guess there's so much gap between you having to do things, and there's the whole weapon breaking stuff and things like that I just didn't gel with me. But I will go back to Breath of the Wild at some point. Yeah,
Breath of the Wild crops up on this quite a lot. Again, it's either in this list or it's in the other more time or it's in the hated list. But Ocarina, I don't think has come up before. I can't really comment because I've not really played it, so.
It was a difficult one for me to pick between that and A Link to the Past a little bit. So A Link to the Past again, it was unique. It had that 2.5D look to it, but it also had the 2 different worlds. It had the light and the dark world, which I'd never seen in anything before. So, but Ocarina, just the minute when you get Epona and you leap over that fence after you've got Epona as you're an adult, or the stopping the Goron rolling and things like that. There's just so many bits about it that are I can still remember them now, and I can put it on and just listen to the soundtrack. I just the soundtrack to it's phenomenal, to the point where I've got the Zelda tattoo on my bicep, and I've got my mum's maiden name tattooed down my spine in Hylian.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, I love the Zelda series, but I've not gone back to it properly. I think I kind of fell out of it with Skyward Sword on the Wii. The motion controls just didn't do it for me.
Yeah, a lot of people say that about that Skyward Sword. It's one of those where they aren't overly impressed with it. But again, I think in another lifetime, or I'd taken a different path in life, I'd have been able to sit down and play Zelda games. But I shouldn't be sitting there measuring games in numbers of hours. How long is that going to take me? 70 hours. That's going to take me 40 hours. Or that's 110 hours gone. What's that? That's a couple of weeks worth, near enough, or including sleep. It's a different time scale, a different era. I'd have done that. I have a friend of mine who had an N64, and he played both Ocarina and Majora's Mask, and he was always reveling about them. I think when the GameCube came out, he had Wind Waker as well. So he was a big. He's the only person I've ever known who played Zelda games, but he used to play them for hours on end. And he just happily he'd regale tales of just spending time fishing And if you get from Breath of the Wild, the amount of people who say, "Oh, they spent," I remember reading some guy say, "Oh, yeah, I had a wonderful afternoon on Saturday afternoon, spent playing Breath of the Wild. I was exploring the mountains." I thought, what? you could do something else in the 4 hours on a Saturday afternoon.
I mean, for me, yeah, Saturday afternoon I can drive and actually walk up a mountain. I don't live that far from Scarf Alpine.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's. I can see why people enjoy exploring. There might be something up there that's worth finding, or it's just the experience of doing it. I don't know, but I can see why people love Zelda games. They're not my sort of thing, but I would hope one day that I would actually try and put a bit of time into them. Because I've tried Breath of the Wild as well, and I realised after playing that for a couple of 3 hours, I thought I'm not going to be able to get through this in a few sittings. This is going to require a serious amount of time. And Claire played it as well, and she came to the exact same conclusion. If I carry on playing this, she said, I'm going to play nothing else. That is it. I'm going to be focused on doing this. Because she's played things like Fallout and Elite, Dangerous, and the amount of time that you need to put into those games. And I remember when she played Fallout 3 for ages, she couldn't get her off it. So she realises now she starts playing a game like that, she'll just stop before she gets too far into it. So maybe one day that will happen, and we'll give those a go. But yeah, good choice. I don't think that one's come up before. If it has done, I can't remember it anyway. Yeah, okay. Yeah, fine. If you want to, it's all right. Just a quick message. Yeah, if you want to drop out, mate, that's fine. I'll fill for a moment. It's all right.
No worries.
Okay. Because what we should remember, Paul's just taking a comfort break, so I'll just fill for a couple of moments. Because one thing I hate doing is editing these. It's a pain in the backside at the moment. With I've had my editing software has been updated, and it's not quite as much fun as before. While Paul's away, just to mention that you are listening to the Retro Bear with Desert Island Games. I'm speaking to Paul, the Ink Northerner, about his gaming history and collection. If it is something that you'd like to do, you'd like to come on Desert Island Games in the future, there is an opportunity to do so. I have people lined up, and if you haven't heard from me already, I will get in touch with you in the meantime. But if it's something you want to come on and do, talk about your gaming history, some games that you'd like to take to a desert island with you, and a couple of fun selections towards the end as well, do get in touch with me. Email address will be in the description below. Always happy to hear from people who want to come on and do this, and it's fascinating and great to have people done that. As I mentioned right at the very start, if you haven't heard this before, you listened to this the first time, or you've missed some of the previous episodes, they'll all be on my channel in the archive selection. We've had Nerdy Geezer, we've had Big Game Al, we've had On a Retro Tip, we've had Retro Red Steve, we've had Griffo's Retro Gaming, Goodwin's Place, and there's loads of different people, different sorts of areas of the gaming, with it straight gaming or other aspects of it. So if you are interested in getting involved, do get in touch. Paul's now returned from his comfort break. I've been filling, because one thing I hate doing, as I just said there, is I hate editing these because it's tricky to do. Yeah. Because my editing software has been updated and it's a bit of a nightmare now, so it's not quite as precise as it used to be. But yeah, so that's fine. Right, so we've done Ocarina of Time. That's game 4 on your list. Let's move on to game number 5.
Game number 5. So this is the 4th game in the series. I think, yeah, 4th, I'm sure. Series that I played rather backwards, because I played the second one before I played the first one, and then hated the first one because of that. And this game is Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Oh, yeah,
okay.
So
is this the one, the pirate one, is it?
Yes. That's precisely why I enjoy it. It's fun being a pirate and roaming the seas and pillaging. So I know Assassin's Creed for a lot of people is like chalk and cheese. I know some people love it, some people hate it, some people don't like the repetitive nature of the original iteration. This isn't the 4th game, actually. This won't be the 4th game. It's the 4th one. So you've got it's weird because you've got Assassin's Creed 1,
yeah,
which didn't really have much of the future stuff. Then you've got Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood, and the other one who I can't remember. They formed the Desmond canon. Then you've got Assassin's Creed 3, which is Connor set in Native America, set in colonial America.
Yeah.
Then you've got Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag, which is the pirate one. So it's probably the sixth game.
Revelations.
Revelations, yeah. So
Yeah.
those three form the Desmond canon, Desmond games. But yeah, Black Flag. I don't get me wrong, I loved the original Desmond ones, the three that were Desmond's main. But Black Flag's just something else about being a pirate and an assassin at the same time. But there's all the pirate again, the lore that you have with the vampire. There's all the pirate lore as well in this. You know, you see Edward Teach Blackbeard. You see the pirate who was actually a girl who played as who dressed up as a lad. I can't remember the name of the pirate at the time. And you've got, you know, and you're going up against true historical figures. You know, these people do exist, and that's what I like about that. The Assassin's Creed games, you know, they might be repetitive and they might be, you know, people might find them boring, but I loved Syndicate. I thought Syndicate was great because running around Victorian London, you go into places that I've actually visited, and you know, there's just. But Black Flag was fantastic. You know, you had the land battles, but then you had the whole sea battles, and you were in charge of your ship, and you were going around blowing other pirate ships up, and you know, and pillaging their stuff, and you know, plundering, and yeah. And it had the sea shanties in it, which you know were relatively new because you hadn't gone anywhere. It didn't do much of the future stuff, so you got to spend a lot of time as Edward. I can't remember his surname, but he's the main pirate. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really such a good game, and I went through and you know went 100% it. I just thought it was brilliant.
Because this is a series where I've played. I've just looked at my list here, just where you talked about it. I think I've got 1, 2, 3 Revelations, Black Flag, and the other two as well. So I've got an amazing number of Assassin's Creed games for some reason. I'm not quite sure I've managed to accumulate. Yeah, Brotherhood, Revelations, and Rogue. So I've got all 7, I think. Is there all 7 on the Xbox?
Yeah. 1, 3, 4, Rogue. Yeah, 7.
Yeah. So for some reason I managed to.
If you don't count there was one that was you play as the female in Louisiana. Liberation.
Right, so yeah. I haven't got that one.
That got HD remaster, and then there are the sort of side-scrolling running ones that I can't remember the name of. But it was a big franchise for Ubisoft. You know, and the newer ones I really enjoyed as well. So I enjoyed Odyssey, Origins, and Valhalla. I liked Valhalla, but they're more of a. I guess a lot of people will say they're more of the same thing. You run around, you do something, and you know you build your army kind of thing. You build yourself up. But for me, sometimes it's good to play a game where you can, much like it is with films, you can just take your brain out. You don't have to concentrate. You know, you can play through the story. You can just get into the action, and you know, you don't have to necessarily think about what you've got to be doing to win. And
I played it. I thought when I first saw it advertised when it was coming out, I thought, wow, this looks really, really good. And I played it, and I don't know, I didn't connect with it. It was okay. I mean, don't say it's a bad game or I don't like it at all. I quite enjoy playing it, but I don't know if there's something missing. It just, I can see why people criticise it as they do, but I can also see your point of view as well. And the fact that this is one based around pirates does sound quite fun, to be honest with you. I think, that I'll quite enjoy that.
So, I mean, quite I say, I played it a bit backwards. So I played 2 before 1, and when I went back to 1, it was too slow, and there was a lot that came with 2 that you couldn't do with 1. And then 2 had the whole, even the Desmond segments in the future were really good and really fun to do. And then, yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Rogue. And there's a couple of them that are okay, but they're not. 3's okay, but it's not great. But 4 kind of rescued the post Desmond thing for me. After 3, I thought it was a bit meh when Desmond was out of it. Then 4 just brought it back with the piracy. It was just brilliant.
Yeah. Have you seen the film?
Yes, it's crap.
Yes, it is.
not even Michael Fassbender could rescue that.
No, and that's saying something really, isn't it? Because he's usually in he's pretty good value for money. But yeah, I didn't watch all of it. I think I came in only about 15, 20 minutes into it, and I thought, it just didn't grab me at all. It actually made me want to play the game less for some reason. I was like, I had played the game by that point. And I thought, this isn't. I don't get it, and I thought, do I really want to go back and play it now? That's put me off a bit.
Yeah, you couldn't do what they can do with the games. You can't do on film, and vice versa. There's not very many video game films that kind of work. Resident Evil works because it doesn't actually borrow from the game lore. As such, it's different. It took away everything video game wise, and that's why it's the most successful film video game franchise ever. Yeah,
I mean that's a subject in itself. I know you were part of that discussion on the bootleggers. I think it was. Was that right? Was that yourself?
Probably.
Yeah,
I've been on a few of Pedro's streams before. Yeah.
Yeah, and I sort of tuned in because I thought I can't ever remember seeing a film that was as good as a game I played. I don't know if you saw early this week there was an announcement about the new Mario film coming out.
Yeah, but it's not live action, is it? It's animated.
It's animated, but I'd file it under one of those things, the tag things that you know are going to be crap.
People said that about Sonic, and Sonic wasn't too bad.
No, I didn't like Sonic at all. I tried to like it. I really did try to like it, and there were a couple of good bits in it, but on the whole, I felt it's as what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I take these for what they are. They're not made for us anymore. Those kind of things.
That's true.
Same with the He-Man stuff. It's not made for the audience that was the audience when we were younger. It's made for a more modern audience. And if they can pull in some of that other audience, great. But
yeah, I just have a feeling that this Mario animated film is just going to be full of nods and winks and in jokes, and I can always sense it now, especially with the people that got him with Jack Black, and he'd probably be ideal for the voice he's doing, but I just think it's just going to be one of these haha, look at us, we're being quite clever and ironic and with some of the jokes and stuff. You can always see it coming. And I thought, no, it's got a feeling it's going to be terrible. But hopefully I'll be proved wrong. It'd be nice to be proved wrong.
I won't be rushing to the cinema to see it. That's for
sure. I shall be finding it through other means. And just see it was worth the bandwidth to download it. But anyway, we'll see what happens when that comes out. It's not due out until I think next year sometime, so it's a long way off yet. Anyway, well, I'm now inspired to go and play that. When I dig my Xbox out from under the pile of crap that it's stuck under at the moment, and I retrieve my games from the store they're currently in. But yes, I definitely want to give that one a go now, because I think you sold that one pretty well. Pirates.
Well, that's
Pirates.
two.
That's two. And Pirates, as you said, so I'm all for that. Right then, so the last game on your list. And this did crop up recently, so I'll be interested to hear your take on it as well.
I'm surprised. I haven't heard the podcast that this cropped up on, so I was surprised that this cropped up. I stumbled on this And I was in two minds whether to put this on my list or put another game on my list called Terraria.
Yes, I know that one. Yeah.
So I'm not a big fan of Minecraft, but Terraria, I must have spent umpteen hours. So in our old house, I used to have my Xbox 360 set up downstairs, and I'd be on one wall and the main TV on the other, so I could game and still talk to Laura at the time.
Yeah.
Different now because this is my office and I keep everything up here, but that's besides the point. And yeah, so I was in two minds about whether, because the amount of time I'd put into Terraria, I was thinking of that. But then I decided on this game. I like my farming games. They're really good. This has got the quirky nature of it. It's got the old what's the game I'm looking for? Anyway, I can't remember. It'll come to me. But it's got the
Harvest Moon. Harvest Moon.
Harvest Moon. That's what I'm
Yes,
looking
that's
for.
that's it. I thought it might be that one. Yeah.
The game in question is Stardew Valley. I absolutely love this game. I think it's fantastic. It's got some good underlying jokes that you don't generally pick up. There's infidelity included in it that you don't pick up on. It has a massive cult following. There's a whole community of people out there. I must own it now on pretty much every system. I've got it on the Switch, 360, Xbox One. I own it on mobile. I think I own it on the PlayStation 4 as well.
Right.
And same with Terraria as well. I just, it's one of those games that, you know, when you find something that you put on and you can just play it and play it and play it.
Yeah.
There's another game called Graveyard Keeper that was the same, that was on Game Pass, and I just happened to play it, and it's just got the similar vibe to it. It's a farming game, but you're a graveyard keeper, and your things that you farm are bodies. But yeah, there's just elements of it. You know, you've got the fishing elements to it. You've got the mining elements to it. You've got the fighting elements where you're fighting against like various monsters in the caves. You've got all the relationship building elements to it. It's a multifaceted game for such a simple premise. You know, and it's still updated to this day, and I've got a feeling it's coming up for at least 6 or 7 years old.
Right.
I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's a fair old game now. So yeah, there's just so much to do in it, and you know, it's even now to today, there are so many ways of playing it as well.
Do the versions differ between each one? Because you said you obviously got it across 4 or 5 different systems. Is it the same game on each one, or are they slightly different in a way?
Sorry, I own it on PC as well because I've got it on Steam.
Another one. That's six, I think, isn't it altogether? 6 systems.
Yeah, so it's different on PC because they get the updates first. So the game itself is the same, but there are it's more updated on PC before it gets to console. So I think Switch has a slightly downgraded version because obviously the development needs to go in to get it on. I might have that wrong. I don't think I have it on 360. I think I'm mixing that up with Terraria because I don't think this came out on 360.
No, I think you're right. I've got Terraria on the 360, so I know that one. I think you may be getting, maybe not as many as 6 systems.
I think it's digital only on pretty much everything, apart from I think it got a physical release on the Switch.
Okay.
It might have had like a special edition physical release on the other consoles, but I don't remember it being there. But I think it's got a physical release on the Switch. But it's one of them. I can lose myself in the game, and I don't have to, I don't have to worry about getting from A to B. If I want to grow a crop, I can grow the crop, and then I can go away and do a bit of fishing, and I can then go and do some mining or fighting in the mines, in the caves, and I can do the different things. I can build the relationships with the different people. You can get married. You can cheat on your wife in the game and get married again. There's certain characters that you can tell are either having an affair with other characters or have had an affair and have children that and there's so many undertones to it, but it's still a very, very family-friendly game. I don't know how it's well disguised, the undertones, I guess, is what I'm going for. And I really, really do enjoy it. I think it's just a fantastic little game, say little, and it's got a massive community.
The previous guest, who was Pete Fighter 2, picked that as one of his games. And again, exactly the same recommendations and plus points that you've mentioned there about the fact that you mentioned it's a farming game as such, but there's much more to it. And he appeared on his favourite 6 list, and he was incredibly as much as passionate about it as you are. And I said to him at the time, I said, "Oh yeah, that sounds really quite interesting." So it's one I shall be looking at in the future, certainly. But what is it? Do you play any other sort of farming games? Because they are an interesting concept. So you've obviously got that part involved in this game. I know it's not entirely that, but
so yeah, I've played Harvest Moon games before. I own Graveyard Keeper both on PC and Xbox. Like I say, Graveyard Keeper came based on game. It was on Game Pass, and I was playing it on Game Pass, and then it got removed from Game Pass. So I bought it anyway, and then the DLCs for it. It's a similar idea, there's various elements to it. You can farm things, but you've also got the puzzle, not puzzle elements to it, but you've got the elements of, you've got quests that you've got to go and do certain things for. And then the other one that is still on Game Pass now, but I bought it physically just in case it gets removed, is My Time in Portia or My Time in Portia.
Okay, I've not heard of that one.
That's more of a semi-realistic one. But then I've got a couple for the Switch that are farming games as well. But I'm not big into the realistic farming games like Farming Simulator 2017 or whatever.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that one because I found a very cheap copy of that. I thought, I know. But again, people wax lyrical about these farming games. I think
sounds like something I would play, to be fair.
Yeah. But yeah, they seem to sell quite a lot, and they do hold their value. Some of these farming games as well. The older copies aren't. It's not like racks and racks of copies of FIFA games, the old Farming Simulator years. They still hold their value. I think the reason I picked it up was because I think it was one of the incredibly cheap bargains I got, and it was like selling for about 15 quid. I thought, well, I'll have that. Just to say I've got an expensive game in my collection for a change, but I haven't played it. I don't think I'll be very good for farming.
Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I won't play one of the more traditional, like Farming Simulator, but it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't appeal to me quite as much as something that's multifaceted in that it's not just about farming. There are other elements to it.
Yeah. I think if I played a proper Farming Simulator, there'd be dead sheep everywhere and the pigs were taken over by now. So that's probably a very, very Animal Farm, that one. But no, I like the idea of Stardew Valley. And again,
all pigs are equal, or some pigs are more equal than others.
That's the one. I recorded that. It was on a telly. Was it Christmas? I think it was last year. Tucked away some stupid hour of the morning. I saw it years and years ago. And for a British animated film of the 1950s, I thought it was a very well animated film.
It's a very, very well written book. I had to study it for English literature at school. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think we had to do the same thing as well. We watched the cartoon at the time. I thought she's quite well animated, considering the fact that we weren't really particularly known for our animated cartoons or films of that film era. I know we're going off at a tangent here, Paul, but we're in an area that we both know a lot about, so I'm happy to go with it. Compared to Disney films, I thought it was not quite on the same level, but it was quite close to it. But yeah, it was a very interesting film, and I can't remember the guy who did all the voices. I want to say Percy Edwards, but they got one guy doing all the animal noises. He's a well-known animal impersonator at the time. You have a career based around, yes, I impersonate animals, but I think he did all the animal sounds for the film. I'm sure it's Percy Edwards. He was famous for doing bird sounds more than anything else. There might have been another one who was doing the same thing, but yeah.
Not sure. I remember the cartoon because it was pretty brutal. A bit like Watership Down. It was pretty brutal for that level of anime. That you'd think it would be a family thing, but the source material is not very family friendly.
No, Watership Down. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is a horrific film. I watched that for the first time. I thought, I'm never watching that again. I'm never watching that. Was depressing. I remember the song being on top of the charts and watching Top of the Pops when I was younger, and you saw this song about rabbits and things. Great, and then I saw the film years later. It scared the life out of me. I'm not watching that again.
Bright Eyes, Simon and Garfunkel.
Bright Eyes, Art Garfunkel, because he and Paul Simon had fallen out by that point.
All right.
Yeah, sorry. There's no bounds to my knowledge, mate. It's all useless. Don't worry. Let's come back from that tangent then and talk about the last part of your gaming history, which sort of brings you to where we are now. So we left you in the student house.
So yeah, So I had the lovely time at uni with all the consoles, and then I finished uni, and I'd been weight training at uni at the time, and I went home back in my hometown, back living with my parents, and I was still training. I wasn't gaming as much, and long story short, I ended up hurting myself weight training, so I couldn't train for quite a while, and I got sort of back into gaming, in that I got a 360. I got the original 360 on launch, with the one that doesn't have the HDMI port, and it, I enjoyed it, but for the most part, what I was doing was playing Call of Duty. And, that's as much as my gaming went to. I would play COD multiplayer. I was reasonably good at free for all, reasonably good at the other modes, up to Black Ops 2 probably, and then it dropped off for me a bit. But yeah, I wasn't really collecting or I wasn't selling the stuff that I'd already got, but I wasn't collecting things either.
Right.
And it wasn't until I started working with a friend and my collecting bug came back. This won't be too long ago, maybe about 6 or 7 years ago now, if not a bit longer. And I was still 360 gaming, but I was still just playing Call of Duty multiplayer, or the odd bits of games here and there. But I wasn't playing anything. I wasn't playing a lot of games. I was just playing the same games over and over. I didn't play FIFA. I just I'd play wrestling games or Call of Duty, or the same thing over and over. And my collecting bug came back because my mate messaged me, and well, I'll take that back one step. So my mum had actually bought me the Master System and a Mega Drive for one Christmas. I'm going to say it'd be about, I've been with Laura 8 years, so it'd be about 7 years ago.
Right.
And then I hadn't done anything then. I hadn't been really collecting. I hadn't bought anything else since then. And my mate messaged me, and he said, somebody's getting rid of this SNES. Do you want it? And they wanted, I think it was the SNES, and it came with 10 or 12 games. Boogerman was in there, Earthworm Jim, a few others. Like, well, yeah, I'll take it. I'll have it. And I got that. And then he messaged me again a couple of weeks later, and somebody was selling a Mega Drive with games. And again, this was like 40 quid or something. I was like, well, yeah, I'll take that as well. And then that's where the kind of bug came back, and I started getting more 360 games and started getting more Xbox or original games. And then I wasn't going at it as hard as some of the guys in the community were going at it now. I still don't go at it that hard, but I still buy more now than I would have done back then. And then I just carried on. I got picked up the PS2 again. We bought a PS3 originally to be our media center in our bedroom, so it was for Netflix or we'll film. And then that died, so I bought another 360, and that acted as a media center for a while. And then obviously things evolved and Fire Sticks came out and stuff. But I've got the PlayStation 3 back, and I now own a Saturn and I own a Dreamcast. These were things that I never had when I was younger and never touched. And I've got that bug and that buzz back that I want these experiences. So I stopped playing Call of Duty multiplayer, and I've started playing breadth of games, and it's great again. And I'm hoping that bug doesn't go away, because now gaming and film are my go-to. Like we were saying, they're my go-to. Just chill out, relax.
That's right.
Mediums.
Yeah, and I'm very much the same. There are certain things that you can go to. I've always said if I hadn't got the collecting bug to start going back and revisiting systems I hadn't played before, but I'd always heard about, or I played on other people's, but not my own. And I had the opportunity to get quite a lot of stuff quite quickly, quite cheaply. And that was going back about 12 years. And there was a lot. I had a period where I wasn't collecting as such, about 3 or 4 years out of it. But it was still there. I was still playing games on emulation or MAME, and it's still there. And I hope it doesn't go away, because it's like one of these things that I go back to as well. It's like, I have an interest in film and television and sports as well. So I don't think it ever will do. Just before you go on, I'm just going to update you on Animal Farm, because it was
Hopefully
actually not
found the correct one.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I was very worried about typing that into the internet, because when I was younger at school, that meant something completely different, and I was worried it was going to come up. It wasn't Percy. It was a guy called Maurice Denham who did all the voices. But apparently, it was commissioned by the CIA.
All right.
They commissioned it. It was animated in Britain. It was also the first animated British feature film. There was others made before them, but they didn't get cinematic releases. This was the only one that went into the cinema, and it was a financial disaster.
So was it commissioned by the CIA as a propaganda piece against Russia? Because that's obviously the undertones of it. Yeah.
According to Wikipedia, it's a British-American animated drama and propaganda film commissioned by the CIA.
Interesting.
Yeah, sorry, I completely derail what we were talking about there, but I felt that was quite relevant, because I don't mind being wrong about certain things, but I like to know that subjects, the films are quite passionate. I thought I've got that completely wrong then, but I just wanted to bring that up because it is an important film, and we both studied it as well, because I did it at school as part of my studies as well. So anyway, sorry about that.
No. Anybody who's not read Animal Farm should read it. It's a very, very good book.
I didn't know. I didn't know it was the CIA. The CIA didn't involved it. It was very, very strange. They brought it over here to do. Perhaps Disney wouldn't touch it with a barge pole.
I would imagine not. Disney were trying to distance themselves from that kind of racism and violence at the time. But anybody who's not seen or read seen the film or read the book should. For a book that was written when it was written, it still stands the test of time.
Absolutely.
It's a bit like 1984 does as well.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. The dates are a bit wrong.
Yeah, and just to clarify, when we're saying Animal Farm, we're talking about the 1954 animated film, not any other film that you may have heard of or seen or whatever in that timescale at all, whatever.
That message was just for you, Jordy Slasher Gaming.
Yeah. I'm Pedro.
I'm Pedro.
Anyway, sorry, we completely derailed that, Paul. Sorry, I do apologise, mate.
It's okay. I think we're just at the point where I was saying that, you know, I've got that bug back that, you know, there are, don't get me wrong, there are times where I go into a slump where I can't find a game that will just grip me and, you know, I want to play. But the YouTube stuff is helping with that. You know, the doing the modern Ghost Retro stuff is helping with that, because it's helping me find games that I wouldn't necessarily touch or I wouldn't have played, and they just sit on my shelves and do nothing. And then doing things like I'm going to be doing with the Xbox is going to do the same thing. And I think it's a word, not self-fulfilling prophecy, but a kind of it's propelling me on to do it more and more and get more and more into different things, and not go back to just playing Call of Duty multiplayer constantly. Yeah,
what I like about it was the fact years ago when I didn't have these systems, I've seen other people play the games, or I've read the magazines. So I never had a console like that until I got my PlayStation. When I was always reading the magazines, so I'd buy something like Mean Machines, which would cover all the consoles, and I'd read about games, and now it's allowing me to get hold of games that I wanted when I was younger, but I didn't have the system. So I just pick up. It's contrary to popular belief, I just pick up everything that I see. It's now I'm looking at games that I thought, well, I'd like to play that originally. It's like when I went Batman on the Mega Drive for one prime example. I remember seeing that, I thought, I'd really like to play that. I played Batman on other formats, but as soon as I saw a decent copy of that, I thought I'll get hold of that. And then RoboCop on the NES, I'm looking at a Telmit's Adventure on the Mega Drive. A friend of mine lent me a copy of that. He had the Japanese import, and I remember playing it. I thought, that was really good, but always wanted my own copy of it. So for me, I'm playing games that I would have played had I had the chance years ago, and also discovering ones that I didn't know about.
I mean, the second part of that is why I like the Evercade, because it's letting me play things that I would never, I'm playing systems that I would never even think about collecting for. I never look at Atari. It's not for me. But it's letting me go back and experience some of the games that I possibly would have missed out on or would never have touched because they were on things that I would never play. And so we all know I'm relatively passionate with the Evercade. I think and you'll have found that with Pete Fighter as well. It's
Mr. Evercade, as we call him now.
Yeah, and he's the reason I have one. He's one of the two people who inspired me to get one. And I know a lot of the guys have bought them and have then sold them on or got rid of them. But I really enjoy mine. Do I play it as often as I play my Xbox? No, but it does the job I want it to do. It's there. It's I'm due to be going back traveling a bit more for work, so I'll have that with me. The thing you were talking about in November, I'll take my Evercade with me. Yeah. I might take my PSP my Vita as well, just because I've not played much on my Vita. So I bought these handhelds originally for traveling for work, and I haven't had the chance to travel for work for the reason we all know. But yeah, I'm this whole ecosystem that we have, watching stuff that the likes of yourself does, watching stuff Al does, watching Mark, Steve, watching videos of things that I may not have played, and then having a go at them. It's great, and that's one of the things that I really, really like about the whole entering the YouTube community.
Yeah, because you always find people that we all collect in a different way, and we all project the collection in a different way on YouTube. Some people get attracted to a certain system and stay with that, and I mean, the Evercade obviously is something which is very close to your heart. So the amount of videos you've done on the Evercade would highlight that, and people can see that the one system I collect is sat behind me, very well known. But it's not my favourite system I've got, but it's a system that I am now associated with. And other people, Steve mentioned Cooper's World, Nintendo. That's another channel which does that. Al buys anything, so. But we all have our own side of it, and we then project that collection in a way that other people look at things. Oh, well, do you know what? That looks quite good. That, or I'd like to try that, or whatever. And you can inspire one person to do that, or two people, or they can inspire somebody else to do it. And it brings people in. I mean, I put a lot of 2600 stuff on my channel in the last few months because that's my. You mentioned you got no sort of nostalgia for the 2600. That was what I grew up with. So I've been playing some of the things that I enjoy, and whether people watch them or not, I ain't really bothered. It's just me putting that forward and say, well, this is the game I used to play a hell of a lot when I was a kid, and this has got a fond memory for it. And then there you go. If you like it, then go and play it yourself. If you don't like it, then go and watch something else.
Yeah, and that's the good thing. It's that one thing that a few people told me when I was asking people's opinions on, should I be doing this, should I be doing that, when I first started out. It's YouTube. It's all about you. You put it out there. You do it. If people like to watch it, they'll watch it. If they don't, they won't.
Yeah. It's a lot of mud being thrown at walls and seeing what sticks half the time, and you're surprised what works and what doesn't. Sometimes I've put time and effort into videos, or think that's gone really well, and it hasn't come across, or it hasn't captured the audience I would like to have done. And then there's other things that I've done that for some reason have just surprised me. Sometimes it's not the gaming stuff as well. I think when I did my wrestling video collection, I was surprised by how well that went. It's still getting views on it now. And I think the most successful gaming video I did was when I bought one of them little Chinese knockoff Game Boy type things, and I unboxed that, and that's got over 2,500 views now, which is, I know it doesn't sound like an awful lot compared to some people. Some people get 2,500 views in an hour. But for me, it's like, wow, great,
Yeah. It's those little wins that keep you going with it. That's what I'm finding.
I'm more astonished that nearly 1,500 people watch my Countdown gameplay video. I'm playing Countdown. You can watch on Channel 4 every single day. It's no different. I think one of the clips I used for it was me spelling out a 4-letter word. It's just like quality in it. Coat, I think it was. Who's watching this?
But it's amazing what people will watch.
I was hoping Rachel Riley would be watching it, but I don't think she has. Well, she hasn't commented anyway.
That's a shame.
It is a bit, but there we go. Right, so gaming history. We'll draw a line under that now. So we got the fun part, really. I always like to finish on the fun part, because we have a category here. One game where we call it a second chance game. You have an opportunity to play this game again. You may have played it before previously. You didn't like it. You couldn't get on with it. You got to a certain point. You couldn't get further. You didn't get enough time on it. I know we've mentioned games here about spending time on. So what have you picked for this one?
My second chance game is actually a PlayStation 4 exclusive. So considering I'm recognised as being an Xbox man, my second chance game is the God of War the new God of War on PlayStation 4.
Okay.
So yeah. I bought it shortly after it came out, and I must have been playing something else at the time. I put it in, played, maybe I got up to the first big guy that throws you around, and I didn't play it again. I lent it my mate. My mate had it all through lockdown, and I just never bothered picking it back up off of him. And then I picked it back up off him a couple of weeks ago, and it's definitely in there, ready for me to play. I just need to get through Ghost of Tsushima first before I play God of War.
Yeah.
it's one of those. It's the same thing. We all go through too many games, too little time, and unfortunately, it hit the back burner. But I've heard so many good things about God of War, that one in particular, and then there's a sequel coming out soon. So I figured, well, I'll play it before the sequel comes out, in the hope that you never know, the sequel might actually get a PS4 release, or I might be able to get a PS5 by the time that comes out. So yeah, that's why that sits there. It's a game that sounds like it deserves more of a play. It's a game that fits with some of my gaming style, I guess. It's something that it looks like I should really enjoy. It's got a lot of Norse mythology in it that looks like it'd be fun. And I really should have given it a chance before now. Also, Kratos looks like a badass.
He does. I remember we came to PlayStation 3, and I remember seeing that again advertised. I thought, wow, that looks brilliant. More so that it was brilliant, the fact that look what they can do on a PlayStation 3 now, as opposed to that looks brilliant, I must buy it. And then a friend of mine who I would never associate with playing a game like this at all, he bought it, and he said on PlayStation, he said, "Oh, you've got to get a copy of it. It's brilliant. It's brilliant." And I think I have got a God of War game somewhere. I'm pretty sure I have. It might be on the PlayStation 3. But it's not a series I've ever played, so I don't really have much knowledge on it. I'm not sure it's my sort of game. Again, I look at it, I always get confused with Shadow of the Colossus for some reason.
Okay.
I'm sure they're completely different games. I don't know why.
Different styles, but maybe it's because it's one of those. Shadow of the Colossus is the same. It spans so many generations that it might, may have got a link. But I've played God of War 1 and 2 on the PlayStation 2. I own 3 and Ascension, thanks to Eddie, on PlayStation 3, and then I own the God of War, the new one on PS4. I just didn't play it, and it does look like it should be a game that I would really enjoy.
I'm just trying to see which one I've got on PlayStation. It's a long way down my list here. God of War Ascension. Yes, I have that one. So that's the one I've got on PlayStation 3. So
whether you need to have played the others to get the story, I couldn't tell you.
Right, okay.
Somebody like Mark would be able to tell you, or Eddie. But yeah, I don't know whether you would need to have played the others to get the story or not.
Yeah,
because I haven't played the full cat. I haven't played all of the series. So.
So, was it a close run thing to pick that game over something else, or was that pretty much a clear cut choice?
I'm trying to think. I think. Was there anything else? I think there was Resident Evil 7 was in my mind. Because I've got so far with it and then put it down and just hadn't got back to it.
I'm not sure that's the sort of game you want on a desert island, though, playing on your own.
Maybe not, yeah.
You wouldn't sleep ever again.
But yeah, I think this was definitely it wasn't a close run thing. I think this was a clear winner. I think what I did was I looked at what games that I'd not put a lot of time into. Looked at that it was always going to be something on the PlayStation 4 more than likely, just purely because of the fact that it's the system that I play the least on, because most of my gaming happens on the Xbox.
Yeah. The reason I ask that, because some people do pour over this, and I know people message me saying, "Oh, it's a hard choice between this one and this one," or I really don't want to leave that game out. And I just occasionally I just ask the question how difficult a decision it was to put something in that slot. But it seems to me like it's straightforward for yourself, really.
I think this and the rubbish game that we're going to talk about, they were the two clear cut for me. The picking of the 6 was harder because I had 6 in mind, and I thought, oh, what about this game? Because I thought, well, maybe Spec Ops: The Line should go in there because that's a phenomenal game,
right?
And then Stardew Valley, it could have been Terraria. There could have been any of these. It could have been Assassin's Creed 2, but same with Zelda. I could have gone for A Link to the Past. The 6 was harder than these two.
I think I would expect that to be the case. Because if you don't like a game for a particular reason, you don't like a game. There may be many games you don't like, but there will be one you don't like more than the others. But yeah, asking people to pick 6 is quite tricky to put them down. So I may do this myself one day. That would be interesting.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, maybe not. But not got too many people to talk to. Right. So this is it. The fun part. I always like to say the fun part to finish on, because some people go on rants here and what have you, and some people just say it's crap. The game we're making you take with you as your hated game, or the game you just don't like. We haven't had this one before, so I'm really interested to hear what you're going to say about it.
So first of all, it's crap.
It's crap.
Second of all, I've actually done a 5-minute review of this and pretty much said it's crap. The game in question, and I am a wrestling fan. The game in question is WWE Battlegrounds.
Right.
This game basically takes everything I despise from mobile gaming, apart from the pay to win, although there are pay to win elements in it that you can unlock, and brings them to console and charges you a premium for a console game. There's little to no storyline. It's very, very one-dimensional in the controls. The graphics are mobile game graphics at the best. I've probably seen better graphics running on my mobile phone than I have done on this game. It was a cop-out from 2K Games and shows exactly the contempt 2K Games has for gamers, and not only gamers but developers. They are probably the worst studio for it. Hope they don't decide to prosecute you for that, Russ, because it's my opinion. I don't care.
They won't be listening anyway. Don't worry about it.
So this game came about all because they fucked up. I apologise. That's the.
You can tell you're getting worked up about this. You've done well so far.
Severely messed up with 2K20. It was really, really bad.
Yes, it was.
It wasn't great. So because they messed up with that, they wanted to put kind of a stop so that they could redevelop the engine for the next 2K game. But because of the contract they've got with WWE, if they didn't put something out, my understanding is if they didn't put something out, they had potential of losing the contract. Therefore, they put this steaming pile out. Anybody who's played it and enjoys it, good luck to you, because I don't understand how. They try to make it good by having Stone Cold Steve Austin as the kind of the person who's guiding you through it, and that doesn't make it good. And if Stone Cold can't make something good, there's something seriously wrong with it. It just does. It takes everything that a mobile game should be, that a mobile game is, and brings it to console, and it should never have happened.
Is it a straightforward wrestling game, is it?
No, it's very arcadey. Essentially, you set it. It's in a wrestling ring for the most part, but it's very cartoony. I don't know whether you've seen any of the NBA Playground style. It's that style of graphics where it's more of a.
Okay.
It's got more of a cartoony polish to it than a normal wrestling game would have.
You played All Stars?
Yeah, I played All Stars and I enjoyed All Stars. But
Yeah, I thought it
All
was great.
Star,
Yeah.
it's a similar arcadey style graphics. But what All Stars does well is it gives you something to build towards. Whereas this has got all the, it's got like the when you play a mobile phone game and you do a level and it branches off into other levels and you've got to do or get so many energy points to get to the next levels, and it's not good. It's not good at all. I think I put about 40 minutes into it, and I just couldn't. I mean, maybe it's not made for me, and that may be why. But yeah, I can't think of another game that I've played. And this is saying something. I would sooner play Fantasia than this.
Oh dear.
I can't think of another game that I've played on one of the modern systems that has been truly that bad. Even some of the £3 games that Al sends to me for Gamer Score are better than this game.
Yeah.
And you get more out of them than you do out of this full price pile of rubbish.
Very diplomatically said.
Well, I've hit my swear counter on your channel for now.
But I mean, I know you're a big wrestling fan, so this is going to sort of appeal to you. But I mean, yeah, it sounds like an absolute crushing disappointment. This one.
It is, and if the AEW game engine looks as good as the videos I've seen for it, I think it'll give the 2K stuff a run for its money. So it may well be that it might be the last WWE wrestling game that I buy.
Yeah, who is doing the AEW game?
It's Ukes, who did the original SmackDown versus Raw.
Oh, okay, right, yeah, another name, yeah. I remember those, yeah.
They're the developers for it. I can't remember they're the game engine builders. I can't remember who the devs are, but it's the old SmackDown wrestling team that are doing it.
Okay, yeah, because the WWE 2K games have been pretty ropey for some time. I think you mentioned the 2021, which was pretty awful.
Yeah,
I remember seeing the people posting videos about that online and just how unfinished it was. It was half a release when it came out.
Yeah, I mean, so 2K just don't have a good reputation of being good for the fans or good for the developer, good for the gamer, good for the developer. And a lot of the games that they release do seem to be slightly unfinished.
I'm just thinking back because they had a fairly good reputation going back years because there was a series of 2K sports games. And I think this certainly, because obviously one of my passions is NFL. I'm pretty sure there's a couple of on the PlayStation and 2 on the Xbox. There's a couple of really good NFL games on it, which people still say are probably some of the best NFL games, better than some of the Madden games that came out. Obviously, Madden's a big series for that. So perhaps they've just gone through this period where they just turn out rubbish because, well, it depends what WWE want. At the end of the day, if they don't want a product stuck on the shelves, knowing how they are, then that's what they want, and that they're quite happy to accept whatever quality comes out, given the quality of their product at the moment.
Well, yes, there is that. But what I've seen of the 2K22, it looks good. It looks a lot more polished. But it's easy to make non-live gameplay look good, I guess.
Yeah.
So
just
jury's out.
Awesome. Yeah, and just on the subject of this mobile game, did you play the was it Legends game? Not Legends.
No, I don't.
Was it the one that sort of set them as gladiators and things? I can't remember. Was it called Legends? Legendary?
I'm not sure. I don't play mobile phone games for the most part. I do have some installed, but they're for when I decide to do the achievement streaks, so that if I'm out and stuff, I can get the achievements. I own Terraria on my mobile, but I don't play it anymore. I mean, I can because I have one of these and I have Game Pass. So this is the clip for the Xbox controller. Just I can pair that to my mobile. I can play Game Pass games on my mobile, so I can game on my mobile.
Yeah,
I just don't.
I've never seen the appeal in doing that. I've thought about it, but I thought, you know what, it's too small screen for me. With my eyesight, the way things are going, no, I'm not going to bother with doing something like that. So there we go. We've reached the end of it. That's your entire gaming history. We've got your 6 games to take with you. Your 1 second chance and your hated game, which was interesting to listen to at the end there. That was that was great. Have you enjoyed it?
I have. It's been fun. I always like to get onto these and get to talk to people like yourself. You're not the king of the community for no reason. And it's good to speak to like-minded people, and especially given that we met face to face, and it's still fun. I found out more about you tonight than I'd already found out. So.
Likewise as well. When you meet people face to face, you have an opportunity to talk about certain things, but you've got a limited, as we did. I mean, we spent pretty much a lot of the time there, didn't we? Certainly about 5 hours or so. Certainly that first time we met up, it was a couple of journeys, and it was a good time to do it. But you ain't learn enough about certain people to actually sit down and have a chat about it. This is why I like doing this, because it is effectively 2 people having a conversation. If we were sat in the pub somewhere like that, we'd have a few drinks and something to eat, and we sit there talking about this. It's exactly the same concept, and I know quite a few people have sort of relayed that to me. It's like, finally I'm sitting down talking to you and getting to know you a bit better, and likewise. So I've really enjoyed it. I mean, I always love it when there's things on there that I've never heard people talk about before, things I'm not aware of myself, but also to know more about you and your gaming history and how you got here. And a few tangents thrown in along the way and a few laughs. So I mean, I'm always loved doing them, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, mate. I really enjoyed doing it.
Cool. Yeah. Like I say, it's always a pleasure to do these things. I do a lot with Pedro, but it's always a massive pleasure to come on and have a chat. And these are very, very good to listen to. I've listened to, I think, 3 or 4 so far. Eddie's is next on my list to listen to, and and then I'll probably either try to listen to Peaks or the other Peak. To be fair, Just go through them. I know, like I say, I would normally stick this on in a car and as I'm driving, but not doing much of that at the minute. Sort of.
Sit down and do it now. I'm always happy to hear people have enjoyed listening to them. They're enjoying the series, and that sort of feedback is just great. And the fact that everybody, I've always offered the opportunity to come on here. Pretty much most people have, even the people who haven't committed to a date yet, have said yes, they'd like to do it, but they just can't do it now, or they just can't give me a date. But I will get them in the end. Don't worry, we'll get them on. They know who they are, because they listen all the time. They know who they are. I'll wrap this up then, Paul. I'll just sort of advise people once again, if you not seen Paul's channel at all on YouTube, do go across and have a look at it. It is in the description below. The link is down there. That's Paul's plenty of stuff on there, different sorts. He's also got some film stuff on there as well. So we did branch off into a bit of film talk in there. So, like a lot of people doing YouTube stuff, primarily for the game, and there are other videos that we do which are other interests. I've got the same thing going on as well. If you are interested in coming on and doing Desert Island games, drop me a line. My email will be in the description below as well. Like I said, there are people waiting to come on, but don't worry about it. We'll find a slot if you want to come on and do that, talk about your gaming history and some games you'd like to get stuck in a desert island with. And there'll be another new episode, same time, same channel, next week as well. I'm not going to tell you who it is because that'll spoil it. It's always a nice reveal. And besides, I don't know who it is yet, so that's another point in question. But yeah, it's been great talking to you all. I will say once again a massive thank you to Ink North, Paul, for coming on and doing this. Paul, thank you very much indeed for giving up your time to doing this, mate.
Not a problem.
That's great. And in the meantime, I'm going to go and have a bit of a lie down. But this has been the Retro Bear speaking to you from the Gaming Pantry. This has been Desert Island Games, and we will talk to you again very, very soon. But until then, do take care and bye for now.